Oh, I have no idea why I'm even up right now. I'm up stupid early. I also have a lot of business to take care of too. So I gotta do something until then because I can't exactly handle that business right now. So I gotta wait for a few hours until I can. I'm actually curious about this. And how long is this video? This video is like 18 minutes long. Holy crap. I don't know if I have it in me to watch that long of a video right now. Ah! And I have to plan out tomorrow too. And this week will probably be the most I get on. Like from yesterday until sometime next week, until I can get a solid schedule going. And that's all I need is just a solid schedule. I'm just, there's so much that's actually been going on. There's been a lot going on. Like, I think another Microsoft got approved by another regulator, and then I saw some article about how the FTC has already won the lawsuit, and I'm just kind of like, okay. And I think that was, if I remember, because I kind of skimmed through it, it wasn't like all that big of a deal to me. I kind of skimmed through it a little bit, and I think it was based off of investors' opinions on the matter. So I don't know. See, there's some new stuff going on. See, like last week, I haven't been able to keep up with a lot of stuff because last week I was going through a lot of crap. Like, one of my vehicles died, so I had to work on the other one, and I still have to get that taken care of. And then all the work I was doing. So I haven't really been able to keep up with a lot of things that I wanted to. So I'm actually curious what this is. I'm extremely curious.
Of the year. 93 players in Ark Survival were banned after raiding a rival tribe who got them banned by the publishers of the game with no explanation. Absolute insanity that needs to be answered. Here we go. Let's take a look at the video.
We transferred a large amount of structures, resources, armor pieces, explosives, and dinos with each server. All of these items, a product of our hard work and dedication over the past 13 days. And so, we teleported over and started the ascent.
I don't know what that is. I've never heard of this. Oh, Ark Survival? I didn't care about Ark Survival anyway. Let's see what this is.
With the industry itself, I want to run some stuff down here Spider-Man 2's Collector's Edition coming later this year won't have a physical disc despite it being $230 or £220. Also, Batman Arkham Trilogy recently confirmed for the Nintendo Switch will only ship with Arkham Asylum, won't be specific tonight. You have to download them, which kind of puts you at the mercy of the Nintendo Switch's 32 gig hard drive, which is very easy to deliver Arkham Knight 45 gig on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. So it's one of those things where you'll just have to wipe out your entire hard drive and try and make it fit. But if you're buying that cartridge using the handheld system as it is on the go, you won't even be able to play Arkham City or Arkham Knight. Starfield also won't have a physical disc. Now this was confirmed by Bethesda answering a fan over on Twitter. Someone called Zoom just asked what's happening with physical discs. They replied and said all physical editions will include a code for the chosen platform. There are no physical discs. Now they've deleted that comment because the reaction was, what the hell are we paying for? It can't complete the game. But it's worth just saying that stuff. There's more to this overall, but thoughts on the old physical media.
It's really snuck up on me, this got open. I think it's kind of snuck up on everyone. If this kind of happened 10 years ago, I think everyone would be talking about it. They were like outraged by the fact that we're trying to replace discs with just codes that you can download to affect the resellability of these titles. You know, just like Diablo IV, not being able to sell tied to a account and different things and measures that developers seem to be more eager to take in the modern age, and I think a lot of us are kind of more fine with it or accepting of it because so many people buy digitally now, to the point where if you look at the sales of the game and you only go off physical sales, you just don't get an accurate number because you kind of see how well a game is doing in terms of its popularity, but the total sales will come well under because a lot of people, or at least the majority now, are kind of swaying towards digital, and I think that's just such a shame. As someone who doesn't buy physical anywhere near as much as he used to, and still loves it for those big games. I recently just bought Final Fantasy 16 physically because I wanted that box. I will buy Spider-Man 2 physically because I want that box, and I would have bought Starfield physically if I didn't have Game Pass, and I would have wanted the disc there because I just think it's so cool to have that like almost ritual of going out to buy a game, having the box, having that fanfare around it, and to see on one hand developers moving away from that is a shame, but the more nefarious implications of they just don't want you to be able to resell these games as they never really have, that is more worth talking about.
So there's more, that's the thing, there's more parts to this. I'm going to put a community poll out, so keep your eyes on the box community page. I want to see what people do. I want to see what the average person does by this, whether they play digital. I definitely play the digital, but I like having it so they're like stuff there. And like you said, just the whole back of the hand, hold of the game, trade it in later, fold it into the next thing you want to buy. That favors the consumer massively.
It does.
So why not keep doing that?
Especially when games are £70. Like, that's a lot of money in a cost of living crisis. It's a lot of money regularly to fork out for these brand new releases. And I just think it's a shame that we're getting away, you know, in a small amount at the moment, but it's snowball to moving away from that mentality, to be able to buy a game and then use trade-ins to contribute towards that cost. Or, you know, say if you bought something like Redfall physically, like that didn't have a disc in it, imagine trying to get in it, being disappointed and not being able to resell it or refund it. Like, that sucks in an era where games are kind of more broken than ever. Even the games I've loved this year have had a lot of issues with them. Final Fantasy 16 right now is overheating my PlayStation 5, and that is
but even when it works, it has frame rate dips, the performance goes anyway.
Exactly.
So there's a couple of things to throw in here. One being a pretty big counterpoint. Speaking of Final Fantasy 16, this comes from GameIndustry.biz's Christopher Dring, saying that Final Fantasy 16's physical box sales in the UK so far have been 74% lower than Final Fantasy 15. Obviously, that's only the UK market, and that isn't the release of that game, but it is a big premier title. It's still put it above Dead Island 2 and Diablo 4 in terms of overall physical sales, but it is massively down on Final Fantasy 15. So I think that's an interesting side of it, because does the average consumer even care about this stuff? There's always a conversation online when someone comes out and says, look, we're not going to have a physical disc with the release, but the average consumer doesn't really seem to care. Like, it's always that thing of, why would you buy physical? For us, it's maybe to trade in further down the line, maybe it's a collectible or something. I love a good steel book.
Absolutely.
Of an evening, yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, when it comes to the decision of digital versus physical media, I think it should always be a decision, you know. Publishers have been pushing us towards digital over the past few years with streaming services, with their digital-only releases, and digital-only consoles. You know, both Xbox and Sony have a digital-only version of their brand new machines, and to encourage you to go to that storefront. When it becomes a problem for me is when you get the the disc version of a console, and you want to go out and buy the disc, and you open it up, and there is just a cold because I just think that is not a choice anymore. You are just buying a box, and yes, the box can still be cheaper than going onto these sometimes outrageous digital storefronts, but it should always be a choice, and it only benefits the publishers and console makers when it is good.
Also, the amount of time it takes to download a 50 to 70 gig game when you thought you were just buying the disc version of that game to help offload a lot of that installation time cost or whatever on the Switch, like the car would just like help with the storage side of it, which was the assumption with the Arkham trilogy. Because like I said before, like they obviously have optimized Arkham like the F down to make it fit on Switch, but you still have 3 games that have pretty sizable file sizes overall. Another thing to throw in here.
No, I was just going to jump in because you mentioned that about how discs kind of offset the huge downloads of these games. I think even that's starting to not be necessarily true, not just because of the Arkham example you mentioned here. You look at Star Wars Jedi Survivor earlier this year, if I'm correct, like the amount of data on that disc wasn't much at all. That was a 120 gigabyte game, and the majority of it was a download, even if you had the disc. So it's like, yeah, it offsets a little bit, but it's not even like the quote-unquote olden days where you get the full game on the disc anymore, because even that's not necessarily guaranteed today. I think it was the same with Call of Duty last year. Could be wrong again about that again, but there definitely have been a few examples over the past year, especially.
Yeah. Also, like going forward, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is on multiple discs if you do buy it physically, but the digital side of that, the file size, assumedly is then something closer to 200 gig. Because you wouldn't have access to those discs to offset things. So I feel like we're in a bit of a transitory period right now in terms of the way the industry wants to approach releases, and they want to put digital stuff and digital storefronts have to pay that price. And the collectible side of it, which the physical comes back in. It's worth mentioning as well in terms of why physical stuff going away matters, because various publishers have delisted games, especially this year. It happens all the time. But 2023 had delistings from EA removing Battlefield 1943, Battlefield Bad Company, and Battlefield Bad Company 2. Marvel delisted the Deadpool game across the last 2 years, as well as Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. Some of the best games you could play. The newer games are brilliant, and you just can't access them anymore. So it's worth mentioning that sometimes great games do just go away, and if they're only left,
absolutely.
Maybe you can't get any more.
Which is nightmarish because, you look at some games that have been delisted. I used to love the Activision Spider-Man games, or at least I used to love some of them. But because that license expired and those games are delisted, if you were to buy something like Spider-Man Web of Shadows, which I do, underrated Spider-Man games ever made that not everyone managed to play, you go and buy a second-hand copy of that, and it's like £30 much as a game. The same with stuff like the old Silent Hill. If you want to go back and play Silent Hill, Silent Hill, you're looking at like £90 for Silent Hill 1, and you're looking at definitely in the 40s for Silent Hill 2. But if you look at stuff that doesn't have that side of it, like you said, it just kind of goes away forever. And I think we're in media generally, we're at this kind of point, this fork in the road, where publishers are releasing stuff for their streaming platforms, and then when they decide it's not successful, they don't like it, they're just pulling it from that streaming platform, and then it doesn't exist, and then you can't get it because there's not a physical version of it. It's like that piece of history, that piece of art, even if it wasn't good, just doesn't exist anymore. And I think games, especially for me, the most nefarious examples are games that could be played single player but have an always online component. Diablo 4, that always online component just simply isn't going to last forever. And if they don't patch in an offline mode, it's just going to disappear. And in an industry, I think that is already so bad in terms of archiving its history. And I just think we're moving in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that's a really good point, especially if you just bring in Diablo just yesterday, Sunday, or on Monday. That game went offline for most of its day because there was a DDoS attack to their servers, which, because that game fundamentally requires a service sync to even play single player stuff, it just knocked everybody off for like hours and hours and hours. So it's like you're kind of tied to the server thing. So you really want to be because you should be able to get around that. In terms of where we're going, the last thing to throw in here is just something that's breaking from most talking about YouTube/Google investing again in a Stadia-like service to access games more immediately. Their whole thing is this leaked service called Playables, which is designed to let you instantly stream various games straight through YouTube. The one that's been mentioned so far is Stack Bounce, which is just a game where you defeat waves of bricks with a ball. It's just breakable, that's what it always was. But it's worth throwing that in here in terms of a streaming-based future, a digital-based future, and whether people actually want that stuff. Like Stadia obviously fell back to the bottom before. I don't know whether that comes back around next time.
I don't know, man. It's like they're obviously trying to push towards a streaming future, and in the long term, I think a cloud-based future. You know, a big reason the Activision and the Blizzard and Microsoft deal hasn't gone through is because of the potential of cloud. Yeah, it's like making shift towards that space where you don't necessarily own a game.
When was this
you
video
just own
made?
the ability to access it. That is kind of terrifying for me personally, but maybe I'm just old and not with the times anymore. Maybe that is the future. Maybe people are fine with that. Like,
I feel like that's gonna be a conversation that we have forever, whether or not digital gaming ruins or not having physical copies ruins gaming. Like me personally, I don't have a problem with it. Like I can care less. As far as like archiving its history, like I don't know if I agree with that or not. Just because if we want to be real, gaming hasn't really been all that organized since it came out. Like we can't even figure out a good price point to sell video games at. And for the better part of 2 decades before the $70 price hike, 2 decades, we've finally had a price point where it's been what, $60? So I mean, when you look at the archiving factor of it, there are plenty of ways that gaming has been archived just fine when it was just physical. I think it'll be a little harder to do with digital, but I don't think it'll be as bad. But I guess there is a point with delisting games, because delisting games is, I don't know. I think it does hurt. I think it does hurt the industry a little bit when you start to delist stuff. But I think that if you were to find a certain way to not delist games, because I think a lot of the reasons why games get delisted is because of the maintenance. But if they can find a way to implement cloud and not delist games at all, I think that argument dies. It's just really hard to transition in this new age where we've traded a lot just to get convenience in almost every aspect of life. But I'm kind of over that discless. I'm really over this discless talk, to be honest. Like, it's really stupid. It's one of those deals where it's just like, you know, you don't have to get the game if you don't want to. It's your choice. You feel like a discless game is gonna affect things, then I mean, you know, what's the sense of complaining about it anymore? Like, we've had this conversation for more than just a few years. It's been a decade now. Like, ever since the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 came out, where the Xbox was trying to make everything digital, like, we've been having this conversation for a very long time. And it's very apparent that in the industry, they are moving towards a digital future. There is no way that they're going to back off from that either. Damn, I'm going the wrong way. I don't see a future where they back off from that. What else is going on? this looks interesting.
Hello
Let's
everybody,
see.
welcome to Our Culture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello, Scott.
Josh, my friend, on today's gaming news, Assassin's Creed's Black Flag, as well as a whole bunch of Ubisoft Assassin's Creed games are in production. An absolute ton to get to. So Josh Brown, let me talk to you.
Come on.
To get through these different things. Ubisoft apparently are betting their entire company on the future of Assassin's Creed. There are...
Doesn't sound like them.
Doesn't sound like them for the last 10 plus years. But yeah, the amount of different games that are in production, there are 11 games currently in production for the Assassin's Creed series as revealed by Tom Henderson on Inside Gaming. And this comes after Kotaku revealed they're also remaking Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Just to get in the remake craze that we're in the middle of. Go check out the other video that we did on the Red Dead Redemption remake. I don't know what order these videos are going up in, so it might be already on the channel, it might not. But I thought we'd run down the amount of games that they have in production before we get to the rest of stuff. Because 11 games, Josh.
It's crazy.
Good
It is
thoughts on all this?
absolutely nuts.
It is kind of ridiculous to just... I mean, I feel like this is the mistakes of people.
Well, you know, I feel like Assassin's Creed is at a really interesting transitory period. You know, we've got Mirage coming out this year, which is by all accounts and by all looks from the trailers, back to basics Assassin's Creed, more in the style of Assassin's Creed 1, 2, 3, and all the games in between. Then, of course, we've got this Infinity project and the live service game they have planned. So the future of Assassin's Creed is looking at least a little bit diverse in its gameplay approaches. Whether or not that will make it really relevant again, I don't know.
I wonder whether Ubisoft just did some sort of wider revision of the amount of different gameplay ideas they have in one, and then just call it Assassin's Creed. We'll just put everything out as an Assassin's Creed bump, and hopefully it'll do well. Because I don't think they're doing very well overall when you think about the rest of their IP. The Far Cry source code apparently just leaked, which is a whole other thing.
I always think, man, back to that one report where internally they was talking about only focusing on mega franchises, and making these super franchises. And yet, going all in on a mega franchise does look to me like making 11 games out of one series and having them all in development at once. Like, I don't know, man, I don't want to be pessimistic. Surely all of these games can't be good. And where is the sort of, like, desire to want to play all of these titles? Where does that come from? Because Assassin's Creed, say what you will about the gameplay style of these games, whether it was for you or not, but to me, the success of Assassin's Creed Origins or Valhalla and Odyssey came because the Ubisoft investors took a chance to miss it. Yes. Like, making too many sequels annualizing the franchise, what told it initially, and it kind of sounds like they've learned the opposite lesson after a decade off and gone, what if we just did that again?
What if we just chip the bucket out and just get everything all at once? I mean, the thing is, when Yves mentioned that whole idea about, people only care about mega brands, that was in the same year that they had a Mario game and it didn't sell very well, the whole Sparks Club thing. And Nintendo, it's like they commit to 11. They have a whole bunch of Marios that went up to 11 in production at once. Especially for the main Marios, they're 173 or
To me, it was, but it's just, like, to me, they learned all the wrong lessons. Like I said, that was a year where they came off these mega brands. They had the Mario game out. They had Far Cry 6, which came out, and everyone was kind of like, where this is Far Cry 3 again. You've done this for like 4 games in a row. Like, as a huge Far Cry fan, I absolutely love 2 and 3, and I even really enjoyed 5. I've never been more disappointed with a recent title as much as I had with Far Cry 6, because it just felt like they were putting out this title over and over again. So to me, to have those disappointments and go, no, actually, we need to double down on these franchises. No, I still don't know where that data comes from.
No, it's very, like, we refer to this, I was between recording stuff where it just feels like remake culture is the thing now. It's what the movies are doing, it's what the TV shows are trying to do. It's to bring the old thing back to again and see if it will work. But in terms of the 11 Assassin's Creed games that are in production, this includes various pitches, full games as well as the things that are in motion a bit more. We have Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is a single player game. We have Assassin's Creed Nexus, which is a VR game. We have Assassin's Creed Codename Jade, Assassin's Creed Codename Red, Assassin's Creed Hex, Assassin's Creed Invictus, Assassin's Creed Nebula, which is apparently set across 3 locations, including India, the Aztec Empire, and the Mediterranean. Assassin's Creed Codename Raid, a 4-player cooperative PvE game, which is a free-to-play. I'm sure that'll do well. I mean, they all do well. Why not? There's Assassin's Creed Echoes as well, another multiplayer game. There's Assassin's Creed Nexus 2, which is the sequel to Assassin's Creed Nexus, which they're trying to plan that much in advance. And there's the Assassin's Creed Black Flag remake, which is the thing that was confirmed by Kotaku.
Where to begin? Where to begin? Again, don't be pessimistic.
Lazy
I'm sure
boy
some
with
of
the
these
follow,
games will
what's
probably
going
be
on?
really good. By law of averages, at least a few of these 11 titles have to be at least, you know, on par with the recent Assassin's Creed games that have come out. My question is, you know, you mentioned a mobile game and a few multiplayer games.
Yes.
Those are intriguing to me because we've had forays into the multiplayer space with Assassin's Creeds previously. You know, we've had PvP modes put into Brotherhood and whatnot, and they were enjoyable. But I'm interested to see what these multiplayer games look like. Is it just going to be a case of having a Valhalla?
I feel like Ubisoft's best days are behind them. Like, this is like, oh man, Ubisoft is. I miss the days of Ubisoft where Splinter Cell was the thing. That was one of their big things. And they didn't just pump out Splinter Cells whenever, and you always felt the difference. I miss those days. So when they talked about a remake for Splinter Cell, I was excited, but I was also very, I don't know, I was very iffy about it. Just because of where the state of where they're at right now. So they find Assassin's Creed and you already know where that's gonna go. Assassin's Creed has gotten good, it's gotten bad. What was that one? What was it? Brotherhood? I think it was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. Oh no, it was Unity. It was Unity. Unity tanked. Hardcore. And I think that's about, I think it was 3 in Unity where you started to see the decline. And then, what did they do? They put out Origins, and it just felt like a revamp. And then Odyssey, like those two are probably the best. Those are probably the best Assassin's Creeds that they ever put out. And now they're returning to form with the Mirage. But I'm curious to see how well that's gonna be taken. It looks pretty good, but I don't know. It's another Assassin's Creed, and they have like 6 more in the works too, and they're trying to pump all those out. I think that's one of Nintendo's greatest strengths that they brought up in this video that keeps them going for as long as they have, is that you don't get a Legend of Zelda every single year. You don't get a Mario every single year. In fact, they do the opposite. They honestly look. They make people wait. They make people wait for these titles, wondering when the next one is going to come out. We're still waiting for like a major Mario to come out. The only announcement that we have right now for a Mario is what the new one that they did in the Direct. I don't remember what it's even called, but I'm planning on getting it. Where it looks like an acid trip. Like the new Mario looks like an acid trip. And not only that, but they find new and creative ways to do something with Mario. It's never just the same old Mario title. And they've done that for years and years. Like you can go back to the first Mario Bros, which was just a run and jump. The second one, you got character selection. And then the third one, what was unique about the third one? It was, what is this? What did they give you in the third one? It was new items that you could use to fly and all that good jazz. They always find a way to create new worlds. Oh wow, that slowed me down pretty bad. They always find a way to They always find a way to create new worlds. Then you had Super Mario World. introduced you to riding Yoshi. What else did they have after that? Then they had Mario's Missing. I don't know why. I love Mario is Missing. I don't care what anybody says. Mario is Missing is like one of the greatest games of all time to me. Then they bring out Mario Kart. And they just keep it fresh. Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario 64, the first 3D Mario title. Mario Sunshine, which added on to that element with cleaning up pollution and whatnot, and introduced us to Bowser Jr. Then Mario Universe? Yes, Mario Universe. Then not to mention, like, the point is they've kept it fresh and they don't just release a new Mario title every single hour of the day. Or every single year. Like, you cannot make titles like that annually. I think if Ubisoft stopped making open world games and focus more on linear titles, I think they would do much better. I think it would be a greater strategy for them to go back to what they know, and at the same time maybe release an open world game every so often. I think that would be the thing. That would definitely be the thing for them to do. But this formula that they have, where everything has to be an open world, everything has to be quote unquote realistic, is just absolutely killing them. They are never, and if they continue down this path, they will never recover.
Just rumors mostly. The people here speak of a sorcerer who lives in a grand palace beyond the endless sandstorm.
One of these nomads could help us reach it. They know the
Valhalla
land
or an
better
Odyssey in allowing you to tackle those missions with friends, because I do think that framework would work well for that. They're already very kind of MMO inspired in terms of their quests and their loot and whatnot. However, I just don't know if that's kind of the future, if they do go down that route, especially in an era where we're all saying Suicide Squad sucks because of its 4-player forced component. You know, I just don't know if they're a few years behind the curve on getting into that live service space with this franchise.
Remember when EA told us that no one cared about single-player games? It just was not right. And then they steamrolled ahead with all sorts of multiplayer titles, microtransactions, live service attempts at various IPs. And every single person who actually gives a hoot about games was just saying, no, that's not true. And just because you guys are saying it with a loud enough megaphone doesn't make it true.
Yeah.
This is what this feels like. I don't feel like the groundswell was ever there for either Assassin's Creed multiplayer or just live service stuff in general. The amount of companies that are doubling down on live service titles when only a fraction of them make it through anyway. And there are so many high-profile disasters like the Avengers, like Anthem, like Suicide Squad. It's not even out yet, and it pretty much is a disaster. Like, everything so far has completely fallen on its face. They've delayed it for a year to try and make it work, but I just don't feel like that's ever going to come back. And so...
Well, the introduction of live services is what began such a huge decline for it, because everybody saw such a success rate with the couple of titles that made it, that they thought that they could make it too. And I don't think it's as easy as that, especially when you have like a company like Ubisoft that has so many IPs that they have to run. There's no way, absolutely no way, that they are going to be able to keep up with the live service space. So why even jump into it? Well, because they see an opportunity to make more money. And when you chase, like, we're finding out slowly that when you start to chase the money, like, there's no quality whatsoever. We have seen that many of times. This guy brought up Anthem, and you could just see it wasn't going to be a thing. You could already see that Anthem was not going to make it just by the trailer alone. Like, it looked okay for the concept, but it's more or less just another Destiny. And Destiny is already, for all intents and purposes, Destiny has been killing it for a decade which is crazy to even think about. It's crazy to think that Destiny has had such a run as it has already. And when people see that formula, what was it? What was the more recent one that came out? Outriders, I think it was. God, that is such a disaster of a game. Good concept, but really disastrous when it comes to frame rate wise. It was just so horrible to play that.
So, and it's not like the majority of these are live service titles that you can make here as well, alongside the VR stuff, alongside the single player. It's just weird. It must be weird being Ubisoft, trying to read the roads, trying to read the terrain, and just put some scenes in every one of these single player, VR, multiplayer, live service.
That's it.
Maybe it'll work.
And you know what? Maybe that's a better approach than what they were doing previously. Because can you remember when they announced, was it Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontlines?
Yes.
Which was a Ghost Recon game that was essentially going down the Battle Royale route. And it was cancelled because the backlash to it was so strong, because they were like, why are you doing this with this franchise? This is not what we want out of the franchise. You put that name on a trend chasing thing. To me, I wonder, with the amount of Assassin's Creed games right now, if they do have one that kind of betrays the personality and the core tenets of the series, and it is this kind of four-person multiplayer thing, they have a defense where they can go, well, if you don't want to play it, that's the people who want it. Don't worry, we have an Assassin's Creed for you. It's almost like you said,
That worked so well for us.
well, that's true. They're planting these seeds all over the place, so they can almost offset the backlash they might get by saying, well, yeah, like, these games aren't for everyone necessarily, but don't worry, if you don't like this flavor of Assassin's Creed, we've got this flavor over here, and that might interest you. We've got the single-player, old-school flavor in Assassin's Creed Mirage. We've got the open world, big RPG flavor in, Nexus or whatever. Yeah. No, I think it's overall, but it's better than what they were doing marginally.
I don't know. For me, it's like it's always by default. You take the same analogy, you have to make a certain flavor, you have to make it thinner. You have to make it not what it was. For me, the biggest problem with Assassin's Creed is just that it suffers a general oversight and everything to it all like it did have when Destiny was there. The original run of the game at this point is like 15 years ago. So it's like they need something else for it, but their approach has just been to only treat it like it's the mega brand, it'll sell anyway, and just put the Assassin's Creed name on things. But it doesn't have the story for it, doesn't have the general sort of investment. It's just Assassin's Creed. It is.
Well, the real issue that we have here is that they want to treat it like a Mario, but it doesn't hold the same mystery as Mario does. It doesn't hold the same. It doesn't hold the same value as Mario, because they keep putting out Assassin's Creed. So if they keep putting out Assassin's Creeds, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to lose its value. And so the thing that they're relying on to be their battleship, to be their flagship, is actually working against them.
Is just a brand at this point and not much else.
Admittedly, giving them perhaps the benefit of the doubt of playing devil's advocate, maybe this is their response to that. Maybe they're kind of accepting we haven't had this oversight, we haven't had this plan in place, and maybe announcing Assassin's Creed Nexus is them trying to get all of these, their roadmap so they know where they're going. So they have that overall plan to the franchise. Maybe it's an overkill to us, but this is the next 20 years of Assassin's Creed. Maybe it won't feel that overwhelming when things come out. I know, it is crazy, but here's the thing, right? When we talk about these mega brands, and I'm referring to something like Call of Duty when I mention this, every decade, we always sit here on a couch like this.
Probably this exact couch. And we say, will this franchise be around in 10 years? It kind of looks like it's flagging. Right. And I've decided I'm never going to question a mega brand again, because I was saying that about Call of Duty 10 years ago. Right. And Call of Duty's still around, and it will be around for another 10 years, absolutely. And I think Assassin's Creed is going to be one of those franchises that, even if it has roadblocks, and even if it takes a few years off, it's going to be around. So then planning, again, devil's advocate, if they're planning for a 20-year
We need
expansion of the franchise, at least there's a plan there, and it's not just we need to get the game out, we need to get this out, we need to just keep up the momentum at all costs. Again, might be unfounded.
No, I think I'm fascinated by the way everything rolls out. They also have Mirage this year is the most like old school Assassin's Creed that there's been since the original trilogy, and even then they would get more action focused as they went on. Whereas all the gameplay footage from Mirage seems almost entirely stealth focused again, like the original game. So something like that, it also kind of calls into question of like what Assassin's Creed even is. Like they tried that weird sort of like dalliance into Witcher 3 type stuff with the Origins Odyssey and Valhalla trilogy, and then now we're back to like what Assassin's Creed used to be, which used to be the most best received stuff.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll just have to wait and see how many of these land, how many of them even make it out the gate.
That's it.
There's so many in production anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so many of these might not even see the light of day. They might just be prototypes. They might cancelled. I think it's all going to be pivoting around whether Mirage does well, but more importantly, whether Nexus does well. And then first three games that Ubisoft has out of the gate that have currently...
Well, Mirage has about what? We're in July right now, so they have about 3 months to get it together. That's they have that much time, and if what we've seen is actual gameplay footage of it, well then I think they might have something on their hands, but it's gonna be really hard to tell. Oh, have I not discovered that point yet? Oh, I guess I haven't. Whatever.
Already being announced. Those are going to be, I think, an indicator of where the franchise is going to go overall. However, to give them, again, a little bit of credit, I don't know why I'm giving them so much credit. This is kind of, Scott Tilford, what we said we would want to see when they announced the Infinity program, when they were talking about having all of these different versions of Assassin's Creed they could just plug in. That's kind of what they're giving us here in a way, as long as they aren't just the same multiplayer game.
Well, that's the thing. I think the whole idea of the Infinity Project seemed to be like an Animus style like hub that you're just sort of plugging different games into, but there's an assumption of a through line of continuity there, or narrative consistency, or investment, or whatever it is. And whether they can pull that off, that's the bigger Herculean task, because you have so many studios all around the world, all trying to work to some sort of unified approach to make the brand work and going forward. Check this video out about Assassin's Creed right here. Let us know what you think down in the comments, and we'll catch you very soon. I've been Scott Hill.
I've been Josh.
We'll catch you next time.
Bye. See you later. See you.
Now, thanks to constant improvements in technology, video games...
This was made 13 days ago.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to...
Oh yeah, I totally forgot. That was a thing. So, Microsoft purchased Bethesda's ZeniMax just to prevent a timed exclusivity deal from PlayStation. I thought that was pretty funny.
Day 5 of Microsoft versus the FTC got incredibly spicy during the closing arguments. I pulled what I think are the best quotes from closing. The judge goes after Jim Ryan. The judge goes after the FTC, saying it's their job to protect consumers. Let's dive right into all this. So we're not going to waste any time. We're going to go right to the quotes. The first is that the FTC failed to explain how Microsoft's plan hurts consumers. The FTC said, if your honor determines that Microsoft is a profit-maximizing corporation and that it will use valuable content to aid its shareholders, which is its right insofar as that goes, then the evidence will have shown that the incentives are to use that content to benefit the platforms, and in doing so will harm competition because it will take that content and make it day and date. How does that harm consumers? The judge asked. Now the consumer, if the deal goes through, has to find some of the content only on the Game Pass. Judge. Like Sony does with Activision, right? I mean, we have testimony to that. They take money from other platforms and delay. Beth Wilkinson was just sitting there the whole time like, I just think of the meme where that guy is like just sitting, just smoking the cigarettes in the car or whatever, and I had to laugh during that exchange because it was so spicy. But what a great one to start on. But it gets better. The FTC compared Call of Duty to Elder Scrolls Judge. So let's talk about ZeniMax. So which ZeniMax title is comparable to Call of Duty in that when it was acquired by Microsoft, it was a multi-platform multiplayer game. FTC, the best example of the 3 to 4 that they talked about bringing exclusive is the Elder Scrolls. They'll tell you it's not comparable because it's an expansion pack or it's a different kind of title, but that one we think is one of the most like Call of Duty. Note that she said multiplayer game, not single player game, and they went right to Elder Scrolls. Anyway, continuing on, I said Judy, Judge. So that was ZeniMax, and it's currently, there's Elder Scrolls 6 coming out. It's not yet launched. Mr. Spencer's testified on our examination that they would have it be exclusive. So what happened here,
they did say that.
Was, I'm just going to make sure I didn't cut anything off, was Beth Wilkinson was able to respond to this a little bit later on. Microsoft followed up on this topic. Beth. This is Beth Wilkinson, the Microsoft attorney. I refer to her as Beth in these notes. When you were asking about ZeniMax and asked him to find a game that was most similar to Call of Duty, he mentioned Elder Scrolls. That is incorrect. There are 2 Elder Scrolls games. One is online, Elder Scrolls Online. That is a multiplayer game. It's on PlayStation today. Microsoft has published new add-ons and separate games that is available. The game he's talking about, Elder Scrolls 6, she said 16, that's coming out right now. The projected release, that's not coming out right now. The projected release is 2026. That's a single player game, so it's not similar to Call of Duty, which, as you know, is a multiplayer and multi-platform game. So the one version of Elder Scrolls that is similar is on PlayStation and always has been. I found this notable because I wondered why they just didn't mention Bungie. The profit is there for a game like Destiny 2, and I would have to theorize that part of the reason that they acquired that property was so that they can monetize across multiple platforms. That's Sony's play, that's Microsoft's play, the math adds up, so it doesn't really make any sense. By the way, if you've been enjoying these, I got to switch my profile here because I had to make a whole new profile just to do this. Hit the subscribe button. The subscribe button's not working again. You're letting me down, subscribe button. Anyway, hit that subscribe button. Pretend it worked, okay? Hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell to know when my content goes live. Thank you so much for watching. If you're already subscribed, hit the like button to know when content goes live and help the channel grow. Let's get back into quotes. So we just talked about the Elder Scrolls follow-up. Now the judge questioned if they'd even be there if Sony signed that 10-year deal. Judge. So if Sony actually had an agreement with Microsoft, the 10-year to keep Call of Duty and future versions of Call of Duty on PlayStation and future versions of PlayStation, would we be here? Well, we might be here because we need to evaluate that agreement. Let's say it's an agreement and they're going to abide by it, and therefore Call of Duty will be on PlayStation all the iterations from now for 10 years. Would we be here, FTC? I think we would still have had an investigation. Well, that's good, but here on a preliminary injunction, well, we would be here because of the other markets. Okay, outside the platform market, okay, that's fair. Basically,
I have no idea why I'm up so early, to be honest. Like, I think only an idiot would be up that early. Hey, that would probably be me.
You're here. Deckard is inside.
Yeah, so I am just catching up on shit right now. How are you? How is your How's the start of your day anyway? I'm not even gonna bother to say how's your day because it hasn't even began.
I am.
Yeah, I'm just listening to this. I'm really listening to this crazy crap going on right
To
now.
walk through that storm and draw Elias's blood.
Like, how do you compare?
Perhaps he has counted
How
on
do you
my vengeance
compare
to lead me back to
Call
him,
of Duty to
so he can finish
Elder
what he
Scrolls?
started. It is safer
Like,
for
it makes
everyone
no
if
sense
I
to me.
stay.
No shame in that.
And this is
It's
the
a wise
example of
choice.
why I say, like,
We'll bring you
people
his
who
head.
have no idea what's going on in the industry should just keep their noses out of it. Oh, you're just waking up? Well, that's dope. Normally, I'd just be waking up. I think I've been up since. I have been up since 4:15.
Help yourself to the ones I keep on old Isabella here. Storm's going to get worse too.
So yeah,
I can smell it.
I'm listening to this.
We'll have to find something to shelter us.
These
There'll be nothing
mentally
left of us
handicapped
but bones and stories.
takes on the comparisons of Call of Duty and Elder Scrolls. And this is just one of many quotes, mind you. Like, there were so many things in this that are so wrong. Like, I'm still wondering, where was this energy? Like, where was the energy when it came to Bethesda ZeniMax? The acquisition of that. Like, nobody made a fuss about that. Like, where was Jim Ryan? Like, was Jim Ryan in the bathroom and then all of a sudden, like, he got caught by surprise while he was taking a dump? Like, that just makes no sense to me. He cried over. He didn't cry over that, but he'll cry over Activision. Like, knowing they have more successful titles, like, exclusively than Microsoft does. Like, none of this should make sense.
They didn't do a tremendously great job of convincing the judge that they would need to have this trial if it wasn't about Call of Duty. If the Call of Duty contract would have been signed.
I would have been worried about it the minute that that Phil Spencer got on an interview and said that he saw no reason to put Elder Scrolls 6 on PlayStation. Like, that's, like, I would have thought about that way back then. Like, way before then. Because he had to have known that was going to be a possibility. And he's only saying that right now, like, that he plans to put an Elder Scrolls on PlayStation, probably just so that this deal goes through. Meanwhile, in other lands, they've been Microsoft has been approved yet again for this acquisition. I'm just more so curious as to how anybody thinks the FTC is won in the lawsuit. I guess I just don't understand that. And maybe we'll just have to let things unfold just to be able to see what's actually happening. But wow, what is happening with my health? But it's just crazy to me. Jim Ryan is crying because they don't have a more successful title than Call of Duty, and Call of Duty is annual, and because it's going to force them to make PS Plus equal to Game Pass. So basically, it's the fact that it's the simple fact that the FT, or basically it's the simple fact that Sony is lazy. I'm gonna die here. I guess I'm not. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't see any way. I don't see any part of this where the FTC actually gets out of it. Like, I don't see any part where the FTC can make a decent enough argument to stop this acquisition. And Jim Ryan certainly is not making a very is not making himself look any better.
No,
In fact, I'd argue
quite enough.
Jim Ryan's arguments got hurt the minute they both had to expose when they had to expose everything that was going on behind the scenes. Oh crap, nice. Will you interact, please? I think Sony is really doesn't want to say their game because the money implications. Good for competition. Doesn't this force Sony to step up? Honestly, if I have to be honest with you, Sony has something with their PlayStation Plus. Like, they have something already. It's just that it just seems like they're slow when it comes to
I need more time.
It just seems like they're slow when it comes to developing, to being on the updating, not developing, updating. I'm really getting tired of this stupid story. I think that's their major problem. And if they would just speed it up or step up something, there's a key element they're missing. And I can't tell you what that element is, to be honest. But they're missing a key element that could put them on the map even further and actually get business ramping up even further than what it is now.
Oh man, if you turn your back now, I'll be the first to bury a blade in it.
Bah, fine. But I won't forget this betrayal, Deckard. You know I won't.
Is he gonna take me through more of this crappy ass desert? Because that would really suck. Let's continue with this crap.
Signed by PlayStation, right? So that was somewhat notable. She brought up how Nvidia loving the deal sound pro-competitive. Judge, I guess more I'm thinking of the AT&T case from the DC Circuit, and in which that's the closest thing I think we have the Court of Appeals case addressing the impact of proposed agreements to address concerns raised by regulators. Anyway, that the district court discounted the FTC's expert opinion because...
You wanted to be honest, if I gotta be real with you, I don't know if day oneing their games would hurt them or not. That's a tough call. And I think for them, the biggest issue with that is that they don't want to take that risk. They don't want to find that out. And I mean, in the current climate, would you? It's really hard. It's really hard to determine whether or not that's going to be a thing that they decide to do in the future. If they find that it benefits it. I guess it would depend on what game they put out. Like, if they were to day one like a God of War, I would almost guarantee you that would be so successful. But if they were, and I'll argue this, even day oneing a Horizon title would probably do them some justice too. It's just a risk factor when you talk about it, and when you talk about those kinds of franchises that have made them a lot of money. Like, let's be real, would you would you or would you not day one a title? Would you take that risk and find out if it could make you more money? Like, I would say, because it's not like day one time. Like, if anything, here's a solid plan for PlayStation. Day one the game for a limited time. Like, shorter than what Game Pass does. Game Pass does it for what, a month? They day one the game, and then the game is available for like a month or two, right? If they were to do it for a shorter amount of time, then it might actually ramp up the interest in the game. I don't know. That's just my thought.
Because that expert did not take into account the agreements. There's a myriad of ways those agreements do not seal this deal. Okay, but so can we just, from a legal point of view, because your brief in support of the preliminary injunction, I think, was a little broad, and it claimed they essentially couldn't be considered irrelevant, and I'm not prepared to go there based on the law, but if you want to try and persuade me, that's fine. She also brought up the Illumina case and the prima facie case, or terminology. We never heard any analysis of the competitive effects of these deals. We never heard anyone from a third party with whom they signed these deals come and say, this deal is magnificent. Well, Zidia and Mr. Eisler said that he was satisfied with it, and she's pointing out that the people who did sign the contracts are actually happy with their contracts. I'm going in the wrong order, so let's start back here. Jim Ryan got called out by the judge. What do you say, though, to Mr. Ryan, who said that Starfield or whatever feels like there was nothing anti-competitive about Microsoft making that exclusive under what you just said to me that is anti-competitive? So the FTC is going against the only witness, saying that Jim Ryan doesn't think it's anti-competitive, but we do. The FTC said, I don't know the basis for why Mr. Ryan was less upset about that one than Call of Duty. Judge, because he does the same thing. The FTC said they do. Mr. Nadella said that's how the market is. You're right. That's the market. It has benefits for players. I assume if you're a video game player, ultimately, if everybody's in a kind of arms race with each other to get the contents and make it neat for their platform or their console gamers benefit, because now there's more neat things to play. The concern here is if you take away the competition, now instead of people competing for neat things to play, if you want at least some of those neat things, you've got to go to Xbox. But that's what Sony is doing now. I think was the judge's point. And the judge kind of got mad at the FTC. So Beth had a chance to sort of go on this one, right? And it's pretty glorious. But it's really unfair for the FTC, who had an agreement with us and knows that there will be no more discovery, there will be no more analysis. We have to go in front of Judge Chappell. That's the next case. But the real question is, they do have the burden of doing a partial foreclosure analysis if that's their claim. And it's an easy but wrong answer to say they can't do it. The FTC is arguing that, oh, we can't actually prove this. Beth continues. There are examples out there. They could have looked at what happened when we took Ghostwire exclusive, Final Fantasy 16. We just lost part of that game because this year it didn't go on Xbox. It did last year. They could look at Minecraft, as they pointed out, where we didn't have an update for the PlayStation 5. So there are many ways, and I'm not, as everyone has been saying, an economist, but that is their job to figure that out. And to say that you want to stop a $69 billion transaction, but you can't figure out what the harm will be, I think that answers the question. I mean, if they can't figure out what the harm is, what they're turning to you or to us to say, you should figure it out, it's too hard? Like, what? I mean, no witness said there was going to be partial foreclosure. No one said that. No one had any examples of it. And if it's the partial exclusivity, as you said, as Mr. Nadella said, I thought the best, that's the world we live in because Sony is the market leader and that's what they do. So there are partial, if that's what they want to call partial foreclosures. That's happening all the time with these partial exclusivity or timed exclusivity agreements, and that's part of competition. It's not part of anti-competitive behavior. That's the argument that FTC has to make, right? They have to prove anti-competitive behavior in their The FTC got called out. Now, this was right before the break, and it was one of the most surprising moments in my opinion. So the FTC is saying, we put in enough evidence to raise a substantial question about whether there will be a partial foreclosure given the incentives, and again, defendants always want to conflate this too. Has the government shown that X is a guarantee to happen? We are talking about the future. The Supreme Court in Philadelphia National said, I'm talking about probabilities here, not certainties. So we will not accept a burden that we must and will show. We are going to talk about probabilities and show that there will be a probability of a substantial lessening of competition. I'm getting some notes. Somebody's handing some notes. One is the merger is permanent. Judge, I don't want you... I want you to know you won't... Sorry, Judge, I know you won't be scared off because of the size of the deal for making the right ruling, but the merger is permanent. Once they decide to merge, they come together. We've heard about the harms, for example, to Sony in terms of optimization. Judge interrupts him. Well, it's not about the harm to Sony we care about. It's the harm to consumers. Oof. And then they said, Mr. Knox, you need a break, right? That's the stenographer, I'm guessing, in the trial. That was pretty significant. The judge interrupting and reminding the FTC that you're bringing up Sony again. And there's been a lot of criticism online where people have counted the amount of times that the FTC brought up Sony versus the amount of times that they brought up consumers. And it's a bad optics play, and even the judges starting to pick up on it, is my read there. I might have read this quote. NVIDIA's loving the deal. The judge asked why PC is not a relevant market, a fellow PC gamer. I appreciate it. The judge was great, by the way. She's like really fun to listen to. Let's talk about the relevant market then for Gen 9. And I guess why I'm struggling there is because you can play a lot of these games on PC and the Nintendo console, and so can you give me a case in which a relevant market didn't include something like an input. I can play on my PlayStation, my PC, and my Xbox, but you say the PC is not part of the market. FTC says the consumer in this example is looking for a video game console. They're not going to go off and buy a $1,500 PC. What if they already have a PC? Judge says. It's ancient magic. They already have a PC? They got super thrown off by the question.
You know, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get asked that question for quite some time, but I have no idea even myself, so. You wanna know the funny thing about it is too? Is that it feels like time is moving like ultra slow. Like stupid slow. So I mean, hopefully
our flock has grown. Behold,
I mean, knock on wood, I'm not even close to passing out of my chair. Even though like I am tired, like I'm not close to passing out. But yeah, so I'm just kind of catching up on stuff now. What is happening here?
They will serve us in the war to come.
What is going on in this building?
Bless me with your power.
So yeah, I couldn't tell you why I'm up so early.
It will be done.
Question. In other words, why isn't everybody, particularly in 2023, and I would also guess that particularly with people who play Call of Duty, are likely to already own a PC, right? So they don't have to buy one. FTC says one is the gaming PC is not a run-of-the-mill PC. A run-of-the-mill that you go and get the bargain basement for $200, $400, $500. The judge says, okay, I get that, and maybe I'm biased in the world that I live in the world we've all lived in during the pandemic, where everybody went home, everybody did their work from home. Nobody did it on a bargain basement PC. Everybody had a $1,000, $1,500 PC. Why wouldn't that have some sort of influence on the downward price of Xbox? Now, my read on that is she's trying to point out what's pretty obvious to the rest of us. Like, people have options in terms of their console, or they already have a PC, and she's wondering why wasn't that data included in the analysis. And she really pressed the FTC to make their point, and they didn't do that very well, because they went back and forth about the Switch and COD and all these deals. Like, why aren't the deals being taken into account? And I don't think the FTC got there in terms of persuading her one direction or the other. There was like maybe a point or two where they got close, but let's continue on with the rest of the quotes. The Switch was also a hot button topic, no surprise, right? So the judge says, when they go to Best Buy and it's on the shelf, and we've got the PlayStation, the X, the S.
I have a question, because there was something I was going to bring up earlier that he brought up, which was the FTC kept bringing up Sony. Do we think that Sony is possibly paying off Microsoft, the FTC, to try and block the acquisition? Because I mean, Jim Ryan came out already and said we're not interested in another Call of Duty deal. We just want to block your merger. So do we think that they've paid off the FTC to do so? That is the question. And if they did, are they wasting money?
And yet you doubt.
Only zealots and fools are completely certain, Mother. If we are to be saved, it will be by your hand.
I have not come to save, but to empower.
And the Nintendo Switch, and I'm looking the Switch, but look, I can get this entry into next Gen 9, right? FTC says the Switch is not the same as Gen 9 consoles. They're talking about the S and the Switch being comparable. The judge says, well, it's not the same. In many ways, it's better, right? Because you can actually still hook it up to your TV and take it on the airplane. The FTC says, but the content is quite dissimilar between the Switch and others. Nintendo's whole strategy is about having Mario and Zelda and the family-friendly game.
By the way, this is where their argument really starts to fall apart here. When they start comparing PC and Nintendo. I always say that Nintendo should never be a part of this conversation because they are in a different bracket of their own. They're in a whole nother league from the other two. They're not even in competition, and they know that they're not. And they've made it clear over a decade ago. So we believe that they are wasting their money, and that they do have a buy-in on that. Because I can honestly see that. If that's the case, and he's still alive. If the FTC keeps bringing up Sony, ultimately, I think it just makes them look bad. But anyway, this is where their argument starts to fall apart. Like, you can't compare what Nintendo does to what to any part of this. And they begin to make, I believe, believe this is around the point where they begin to make the argument that exclusive titles is bad for the market and whatnot. But if that's the case, then they're arguing against Sony themselves too. And so then, what is it that you're looking for? What is it that you want? Because if exclusives are bad, if that's really the case, then there should be no console war at all. There would just be a bunch of third parties running around developing games for God knows what. Maybe PC, who knows? So it just really doesn't make sense.
And there are overlaps, of course. Beth sort of had a rebuttal and taking out a lot of the platform that you see on this one. The console is just wrong. The most popular games are on both. Nintendo has some different features, as you heard Mr. Kotick admit, that he didn't quite see as benefits, but the price is one of the most important things that consumers look at. You heard many people, including Mr. Kotick, say the free-to-play games are the most popular ones. Fortnite, FIFA, Minecraft, Apex Legends, NBA 2K22, Rocket League, Overwatch 2. You can go down this list and you can see that these are on both devices. The FTC sort of mumbled something, and then Beth said, we also know that Call of Duty was on the Nintendo devices previously. I hadn't thought about that Ghost was like on the Wii U or something, so the whole narrative that it would be impossible for the Switch to run it, and that's more hardware than the Wii U, I think it sort of starts to fall apart. That really sort of means the judge on this one about the Switch deal and continuing on. The judge brought up Game Pass versus PlayStation Plus. God of War, is that on PlayStation Plus? Beth, not damn day. And if Call of Duty were on Game Pass, but not on PlayStation Plus, wouldn't that just incentivize Sony to up their game, so to speak, on the PlayStation Plus to improve the content and maybe make stuff available more immediately? In other words, it would increase competition as opposed to decrease competition because it's not available on PlayStation Plus right now. So unlike the console, it's not taking anything away from anybody. Nobody has the ability right now to just pay a subscription and get Call of Duty. The FTC paraphrased here. Well, someday Activision could put Call of Duty on PlayStation Plus if the merger doesn't go through. The judge encouraged them to play that out, how the consumer is harmed, because I still don't understand why then Sony doesn't just make their PlayStation Plus better. What have I been saying on this channel for so long? What will likely happen is that Sony is going to bolster their PlayStation Plus service, and that ends up being a pro competitive effect. Xbox is PlayStation Plus, Xbox is Xbox Game Pass, PlayStation is PlayStation Plus, and more choice, and PlayStation Plus gets a little bit better. That sounds like a good thing. Just pointing out that we're basically here because Call of Duty 2 reiterated this. I just hesitate because they have some really great other franchises. The FTC Weinberg kept bringing up how they have Diablo and such. The judge says, as those Warner Brothers have the #1 game earlier this year, right, of Hogwarts, like, you just don't know. And there are lots of other games. This industry is really different. It's amorphous, and it changes all the time, and it's completely dynamic. Other games have come and gone, like MySpace, or TV shows or whatever. Why is the emphasis just so much on Call of Duty? I mean, isn't there an argument that we're forcing to come up with another good annual game? After all, Mr. Kotick started from essentially nothing, but he was able to do it, right? The FTC says if they were buying a smaller game, we wouldn't be here. FTC also talked about anybody would love to make a call. Beth said, Your Honor, it's not an essential input. There's a big difference between necessary, which is what the case law says, and being a popular, enduring, wonderfully successful game. No one disputes that. It's one piece of content. There's no case that says one piece of content or one competitor gets it. will be harm to competition. It's a quote there because we're trying to everything. And again, FTC didn't land that point. The judge wanted to know where this 20% from the doctor's lease study, and again, the FTC will get there on this one. So people who play Call of Duty for 20 hours a year, are they included in the data? This is just the judge's comments, right? We know that some people play 5 hours a year, and some people play 20 hours, 200 hours a year, I think that's supposed to be. And you're not going to tell me that someone who...
Here's a question.
She took me to an ancient battlefield.
Isn't Elder Scrolls just as big of a game as Call of Duty? I mean, if that wasn't the case, why would they sell Skyrim like 5 different times, right? Or am I crazy? I could have swore the numbers showed. I could have swore the numbers show that.
A paradise where we will live free from the
who plays
tyranny
5
of
hours
the
a year
heavens and
is
hell.
likely to buy that Xbox just because Call of Duty is exclusive.
To make it so.
Judge continues. A lot of people buy games and then they play them once or twice and then they never play them again. They play with their friend and then they never play them again. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm looking at the data and Dr. Bailey said that a lot of people don't buy it and don't play it very much. When he's saying I put 20% in the model and it produced 5.5% share change, he's not saying that the model produced 20%. Okay, all right, I've been directing you to those paragraphs as well. So she basically got them to the point where the whole lease study no longer exclusive. I think she was like, how do you get a 20% shift over to Xbox? Oh, it's 5%? We're done. Put that in your report. Like a 5% market change to her doesn't seem to be significant enough to block the market. A 20% would have been. The judge thinks people would vote for Call of Duty this way. The judge said, we don't have these economic incentives. Those economic incentives include your brand, right? And if I recall, when I asked Dr. Lee as to whether his foreclosure model took into account the potential reputational harm of making them exclusive, you've talked about how you point to Mr. Ryan and the loyalty of these Call of Duty gamers. If their preferred platform is taken away from them, there's going to be harm. That DC says, we saw what Microsoft did faced with reputational harm in the ZeniMax case. But I'm sorry, you just told me you can't think of another multiplayer, multi-platform game that was acquired, so actually, we just don't have anything to compare to. If people really want to play the game, they will still go to Xbox and play. They may crumble and be mad, even though no one has proposed the theory that they'll just throw down the controllers and stop playing altogether. The judge says, you don't think a boycott is possible? We certainly see consumers doing it. Long story short, if they get next, they will just stop supporting the brand, right? And that was the data she was looking for to prove that there was harm. The FTC says the harm will start immediately upon the close. FTC, the harm will start the day the deal closes. And it will start that day because that is the day Mr. Ryan and anyone else who makes content platforms will start looking a different way at Activision and sharing proprietary information on the platform. Who is going to contact Activision and say, great, here's my new platform, it's going to optimize Call of Duty for my new platform, it's going to do 6 new things? That would be great. The day after the merger, because that info goes to Microsoft. Beth Wilkins doing the rebuttal. That's just not true with Call of Duty. As you know, there's a contract that's going through until 2024, and the evidence to ensure that Call of Duty stays on PlayStation until it's then. But regardless, what Microsoft wants is indisputable evidence that they follow their contracts when they acquire studios. The government proved that for us. The judge said Call of Duty that's being released in November, that thing is going to happen. I guess what I'm saying is we should address it in submissions. So Judge Loki just revealed that there's a new Call of Duty in November. I know I'm not shocked. Call of Duty included the little eye emoji, but just looking at it again, I think this is one of the FTC's stronger arguments, right? That is like that doesn't matter. kind of moved on from that one. I wonder if I have them. The judge caught Microsoft from God of War. That says Sony has many of those successful games too, like God of War. But Sony developed God of War itself. Yes, but as far as I understand it, I think that's their point. Like, we wouldn't be here if Microsoft made Call of Duty. The argument is, and the theories behind these antitrust laws, and the whole case is that we don't benefit from just buying up each other. We benefit from keeping things separate, and therefore incentivizing people to create themselves. Everyone who came in, whether it's Microsoft or Activision, said it makes sense to keep them on multiple platforms. So the argument is, there's no one's denying that this game is going to be on multiple platforms. Nobody is saying it. So the theory of harm is certainly, but I think those are the last two quotes that I read are two of the strongest. I hope this one that's made it clear that Call of Duty will go to other platforms. It is. This was probably my favorite one of the whole thing. If the political pressure is how we get them to distribute Call of Duty, so what? There's no dispute that Call of Duty is going to be on these services as a transaction goes through. So you asked, and I asked every one of our executives whether they would honor these contracts. They said it in open court. They said it to you under oath, and they've said it for the last year. Are they honestly suggesting that they weren't credible, that they're going to get up in a public courtroom in front of you and lie about whether they would honor these contracts? I mean, it's absolutely absurd. It really is. To suggest that Satya Nadella, he got up in your courtroom and he said he would honor it. Judge said, but he was clear that it was Mr. Spencer's decision. And Mr. Spencer said the same thing. It's not because everyone is a saint. It's because it makes economic sense and reputational sense to put that content on these different platforms. A huge flag and opinion, a very compelling argument on Beth's part, because she's pointing out that, like, look, yeah, they're not doing it because they're a saint. They're doing it because that's how they make the most money. And that model was proven with Minecraft. Minecraft is on like 20 different platforms right now, including the PlayStation 4 and the PlayStation 5. Why would they suddenly pull?
You know what's crazy about all of this is that they bring up Minecraft, and man, you have to appreciate the very nature of how sensitive this case actually is, because that in itself, like how microtransactions, DLCs, were the blueprint for microtransactions. Microsoft's putting Minecraft on every other system was also the blueprint for these deals to go through. It also means that it's like I've said before, that if or when this deal goes through, that it's going to be they're going to set the mark for how much companies are willing to accept just to be acquired. Third parties are willing to accept to be acquired. If they are willing to go through with deals like this.
Use it against them.
Now, personally, I think that if I'm a third party, I'd much rather stay a third party. Just because, especially if I have a really good formula, then I don't want any other entity interfering with what I have going on. Like, let's say like Sony or Microsoft decided to go after, let's say, what's a really good one that they could go after? Let's say From Software, right? Let's say they go after From Software. Like, would you really want their hand in that particular, in their titles? Like, I wouldn't want Microsoft's hand or Sony's hand in that title. Like, I could see like maybe an exclusive deal for either side, but to outright buy them, I think would ruin that company completely. So, I mean, you just have to appreciate the nature of just how ahead of the curve that Microsoft actually was when it came to this, to plan that far ahead in the future, to knowing that this day would come where they be acquiring ZeniMax, Bethesda, where they be attempting to acquire Activision. Like, what else is going to happen? You just never know. And now, if anybody wants to acquire anything, now they got to look at the price that Microsoft paid versus like the price that Sony is willing to pay and make the decision. Now, that's not to say that Sony couldn't acquire anything, because they've acquired a few things. Actually, they've acquired a few third parties, but the question is would they be able to acquire companies as big as Activision? Meanwhile, in EA's world, EA is still trying to get cuffed, and EA will probably never get cuffed by Microsoft or Sony, and I don't blame either one of them, because I don't know what's going on at EA, but that's besides the point.
Minecraft or Call of Duty or whatever game, it doesn't make economic sense. So that's why the Bethesda versus Call of Duty argument, it just doesn't hold water. Those were all the quotes that I pulled, and I kept it under 40 minutes today. We're going to get out of here really quick, but there were a few housekeeping things at the end, and I'm probably going to go through and pull more for another video over the weekend, so be sure you're subscribed. But
did you kill him?
Oh,
more than once.
Did I forget to add the quote?
Trouble is, he won't stay
Withholding
dead.
makes no sense. Anyway, you heard from Mr. Kotick, Mr. Spencer, Mr. Nadella that they're more successful when they put it on more platforms. This is the 20 different platforms thing. Yeah. This is why they can't find an example of another existing multi-platform multiplayer game that anyone would take off the platform, because it doesn't make sense. It makes
another point that was made in this video I completely spaced out. Was it the ability to run a Call of Duty on a Switch versus a Call of Duty to run to running a Call of Duty on a Wii U? The Wii U probably, and I'd argue this, probably had more stable technology behind it than the Switch does, which is absolutely nuts to think about. And
simple as that.
I mean, you have to think about how the Wii U was built versus how the Switch is built. I don't think it would hold up graphically, and I think that in itself is a decent argument to be made. But I guess we'll never actually know, now, will we?
We could keep the evil at bay.
Makes more sense like Minecraft. Look what they do. They have it on 20 different platforms. The inference I've asked you to draw is there is no evidence that these have any pro-competitive effects whatsoever in the marketplace. The judge says, wait a minute, how can putting Activision content on NVIDIA's cloud, how is that not positive for consumers? The FTC paraphrased, we need to do an analysis. We have to verify that. Beth, Minecraft generates more revenue on other platforms than it does on Xbox. So the FTC just got eviscerated with that point. They're like, we have to do an analysis. Beth is like, we make twice the revenue on other platforms than we do on Xbox. Their console arguments are just garbage. So like, some of the stronger stuff is about the degradation in cloud, in my opinion, but these closing arguments, people were following me, and like the people that were following the people live tweeting it were losing it because some of them were so ridiculous. It was just insane to me. Tell me about another multi-platform, cross-platform play game. Elder Scrolls. No.
And
Elder Scrolls and Call of Duty. Like,
wait, they're still making shit for the Wii U? Are you kidding me? I didn't think the Wii U was still a thing. This is actually news to me. Or was it that the Wii U was just that easy to forget about?
To contact Lilith. Perhaps it can help us.
And I'd argue, I don't know if we would actually know that, because there's one that I could think of off the top of my head. One reason why I would think that we can't know. That one reason is that Call of Duty and Breath of the Wild are two totally they're made differently. It is totally not the same. Two different engines, two different and I'd imagine graphically they're worlds apart. So we will never know that. I don't think we'll know that. And I'm sorry, I took Breath of the Wild as Tears of the Kingdom, so that was my bad. That's why I was all shocked that that Wii U was still a thing. But yeah, you're right. Breath of the Wild was on the Wii U. But graphically they're worlds apart, and and that's why we'll never know. Like, I can tell you right now, I can give you a better example of why I don't think the Switch is actually capable of running a Call of Duty, and that example would be Dark Souls Remastered. Because if you play Dark Souls Remastered on the Switch and then you play it on PlayStation 4 or Xbox, you can see there is a world's difference graphically. A great example is fighting against Quelaag. You can't, on the Switch, you cannot see her AoE that she does, so you'll never know how much distance you have to put between yourself. Whereas if you go on like a PlayStation 4 or Xbox, you'll be able to see all of that. So when you start talking about graphical whether or not a system can handle a certain game, that's automatically where my mind goes to. Like, the degradation of a game goes down, or there's a huge degradation. Jesus, I can't even talk right now. There's huge degradation when you put certain games on the Switch. Huge. And you can definitely see the difference. And it's way more choppy.
Like, except for in terms of sales, they're very different types of games, and I think everybody recognizes that. Even the judge recognizes that, so that didn't hold water. Now, what I meant to bring up were, when is this whole thing going to end? So June 30th, 5 p.m., that's Friday, proposed finding of facts and conclusions of law submitted. This formatting's weird, sorry. July 3rd, 12 p.m., noon, on Monday, submit joint appendix of exhibits. July 4th is a holiday, so that's Tuesday. Now, July 12th is when they said the public version of proposed findings of fact and conclusion of law will be delivered. The judge made a joke. She said, "I don't know when I'm going to get it out, so don't expect this to take 2 or 3 months to get the same audit." I'm sorry. That was a joke that she made to Beth, I believe. The judge said, "I'll file my order under seal and then I'll ask you to provide me jointly with your proposed redactions. Also, try to write it in a way that we don't need so many redactions." So, I personally don't really know how to read that, but it does sound like before the 12th, so within the next 2 weeks. I don't know how court stuff works, so I actually reached out to Hogue Law just publicly on Twitter. But if anybody has sort of inkling that...
Wait, so do we think Apex and Fortnite actually hold up the same graphically as a Call of Duty though?
Saw me.
Especially when you also look at the file size on that bad boy too. Like, let's say they have Warzone on Switch, right? You're not gonna be able to put Warzone on Switch because already, if you're just downloading the base game itself, you already have 50 gigs taken up. You have 50 gigs of space taken up. Add on Warzone, and then you have a whole nother monster. It's 150 gigabytes altogether. I don't think that holds the same. I don't think Apex or Fortnite holds the same in that regard. Like, I think it takes a lot more to run a Call of Duty than it does an Apex or
You'll be
Fortnite.
able to conquer hell and sanctuary alike. I have an idea. How to
I
stop
could very well be wrong about that, though.
But for it to work, we'll need the help of an old ally. Deliver this message to Dolan. He'll have gone to Kyovashad for guidance.
That's what we know is going to happen, and we'll be keeping an eye on everything online or whatever to know. Well, everybody online will be keeping an eye out for it. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you're wondering why I'm whispering a little bit on this one, it's because it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I didn't sleep. I wanted to get this last one out for y'all. I might skip a day, take it a little bit easy, but I got a lot more quotes to share with you. If you liked any of this, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hitting that bell. Especially if you watched all the way to the end. If you want to become a member, support this channel, you can do so. Thank you so much to all the members.
Cool. Wait, there's shorts on this too?
Everything you need to know about Microsoft versus FTC case. If you are unfamiliar, we have several videos addressing this, but Microsoft is in the process of trying to buy Activision Blizzard, which has been blocked by the FTC. The purpose of them trying to buy Activision Blizzard is to be able to put those games on Xbox Game Pass. Now let's talk about what's next for the case. The judge is expected to rule before July 18th on whether to block the $68.7 billion acquisition. The Federal Trade Commission has already filed a lawsuit in December to stop the deal, and this hearing focuses on the restraining order to halt the merger acquisition. If the judge rules in favor of Microsoft and Xbox, the acquisition...
Okay, so she's just giving a play-by-play at this point. No way. You're talking about mobile, which is a completely different space, and that is a completely different game. Like, straight up. Like, I cannot disagree more with that. If they can figure out how to make, I would imagine that they had to downgrade a lot just to get that as good as it is on the phone. And I haven't even played the I haven't played the mobile version yet. But when you're talking about that Call of Duty, that is a separate Call of Duty from the other one. But if you're talking about like another Switch though, then we have some. I think there is where we have something to talk about. I don't think that we can just. I honestly do not think we will know with this Switch. You know what I do think that they could do though? I think they could put the Call of Duty mobile on the Switch. That's what I think they could do. I would argue that they would be able to do that. But they would severely hurt this game. If they would severely hurt Call of Duty now if they tried to put it on Switch. They already have problems. Developers already have problems with thank you, by the way. Developers already have problems with downgrading their games to like a Xbox Series S. So why wouldn't they have the same problem? It's not a different space if the judge lets the deal go through, because that was part of the argument the FTC was making, is that Switch and PC are less, so they do not count. But that's where the FTC fucked up, though. The FTC fucked up by not understanding the very magnitude of how well PC and Nintendo actually do. Like, they don't understand that. That's why I always say, like, suits should never put their fucking business, they should never put their minds on business they have no fucking idea what's going on. The FTC obviously has shown throughout this whole case they don't actually pay attention to what's going on in the gaming space. They're talking like fanboys that got paid. That's what they're talking like. Spill a drink on me. It's just a little drop. If you're talking about their argument, I could take what you're saying and what they're saying, and I could say, if you say that they're less, technologically, PC is worlds ahead of any console. Period. That's why PC players get to act like they're God, because they have godlike technology behind their hand. They don't have to wait for the next generation to come out, because their generation comes in the form of different hardwares that they can put into their PCs, as long as the hardware cooperates with each other anyway. Nintendo Switch, if you're talking hardware wise, yes, it is less. It is totally less. And I would argue that it's a downgrade from the Wii U. Now, you could say I'm wrong on that one, but the Wii U was built way differently than how the Switch was. It's like they had to take out some things just to be able to add other things into it, right? So, I don't know. I don't know where the FTC's head is actually at with this, and how they're gonna stop. And I guess I shouldn't underestimate it, but I don't know how they would stop it at this point in the case right now, with another regulator approving this deal. And if Microsoft was willing to take Call of Duty out of the EU, or it was speculated that they were willing to take Call of Duty out of the EU, I think they'd really have some problems if they were willing to take it out of the United States. You know how many people would be up in arms about that? There would be a shit ton of people that would be angry about that. Is there really not much news going on besides this? Is this really it for gaming news? This can't be it, right? I mean, there's the Black Flag remake, which I'm not too excited about, because I don't care about Black Flag. I know it was like the most popular thing. Okay, but then here's another thing. Just because the judge could rule in favor doesn't mean it would change a damn thing on anything else. Hold on. I think it would change. I think it would change a lot with how Microsoft interacts with Nintendo. Sure. But it wouldn't actually change much. Like, truth be told, it would not change much. Sure, but that's not what this is about. Like, the FTC made it about that just to stop a merger. But the reality of the matter is that there's still going to be you're still going to have issues. You're still going to run into technological issues. The laws don't stop that. Sorry. That's not how it works. Like, the law could push forward something, but the truth of the matter is you still have to, like, Nintendo still has to work over those technological hurdles of theirs. The FTC's dumbasses were the ones that tried to throw all of this stuff that didn't make sense in blocking a merger. I guess that's where the disconnect is, though, is because, like, it's not just things like this don't just happen overnight. They rule in favor of it, sure, but this is still going to take time. This is going to take as much time as it takes to I'd argue this would take just as much time as it is to figure out how the value of streaming games and how to actually get it to work without having the hiccups that you would in an unfinished game. So that's all I'm saying, is that it's not gonna change much. Things are still gonna remain in certain aspects. And the law can only open the gates. They can't make things happen immediately when it comes to stuff like this. And I would argue that because Sony, the folks at Sony have been like this for years, they're not going to deal with this. They're not going to just take this sitting down. They're going to figure out a way to use that legal jargon to their benefit, so that they don't have to join the crowd. Seriously, this is it? Like, there's nothing else going on in the gaming space besides that? Like, that's the biggest thing right now? I feel like this is a pattern, too. No, fuck the feeling. I think this is a pattern. Like, as soon as things die down, then we go back to Microsoft versus somebody, right? Am I wrong for saying that? I don't know. Does mobile need to change? And we already know that PlayStation is often late on the draw when it comes to stuff like this, because when they get when they get a formula that works, boy, they stick with that shit. They stick with that formula like crazy. They don't ever think to move or anything. And before anybody says that I'm an Xbot, keep in mind I am playing on PS5 right now. So I just thought I'd make that little disclaimer beforehand. I just like to call a spade a spade. They are always late on the fucking draw. They were late on the draw with this formula. They were late on the draw with this formula for PlayStation Plus. They were late on the draw with adding games to PC. They were late on the draw with all the technological advances that Nintendo has made, even though they haven't really made very many. It's just that they know how to do technology origami. Like, they're just late on everything. They take they're the better versions of Ubisoft. Oh, pardon me. They're the better versions of Ubisoft. They take their flagships and they rely on them heavily. Heavily. Like, I wish more companies would be like Nintendo. And that's saying a lot. I really wish more companies were like Nintendo. Because then, if that was the case, then I could almost guarantee we probably have way more to play. We'd honestly have way more to play than that, than what we have right now on the Xbox and PlayStation. And I would argue that we might see more completed games too. That's right, I am not an Xbot. In fact, my Xbox has been collecting dust for like a year now. Actually maybe over a year now. Because I don't have it in me to pick up my Xbox controller at the moment. Can I be real too with Starfield? Like, it looks cool, I guess. I don't know if that's gonna be what inspires me to pick up my Xbox controller anymore, or to pick up my Xbox controller again. And I really I don't know. I'm not hyping that game up. I refuse to hype up a game that hasn't even come out yet, that we only know what they want us to see. I can't get hyped for something like that. Where we at? The Master's Touch. There's got to be some other news, though. There's got to be more news. What is happening here?
After everything.
Faithful penitents, a prophecy has been delivered to me. One that speaks.
Good news for once, I hope.
It's from Lorath.
Wonderful.
Let's see if I can find something else.
Lord. Entering hell. It's Soulstone. What? Is he serious?
What does it say?
He didn't tell you? No, of course not. That would require some basic degree of consideration.
It's written in our code. He sent a plan. Though calling it that is generous. He wants to imprison Lilith with my soul stone. The one that held Astaroth.
Can it work?
Certainly not. The stone needs to be attuned first. And he will need an expert for that.
Lorath thinks that expert is you.
Then he is even more foolish than I thought. Go to the Horadric vault, will you? I'll dig up what he needs.
Wait,
you
what?
can deliver it. And maybe then he'll leave me alone. Hold on. Did Lorath offer you his horse for the journey? No, wait. What am I thinking? Of course not.
Hey everybody, welcome
I'm
to
old
ADS
friends
News.
with the
This is
stable
first
master in town.
today.
But
Tell him I
first,
sent
an important word
and
from
he'll
our
offer you a
sponsor.
steed.
Joe, we need to get him something for his birthday.
He's so hard to shop for. I know. Let's get him like tools or something.
No, Joe, he already has all the tools known to man.
What about a shirt?
Yeah, shirts are easy if he didn't wear circus tent size shirts.
Now it's summertime. We are switching from pants, shorts, wearing less clothing, and you need a less bulky wallet and pocket.
Time to trim down.
Exactly.
I used to have that big thing. Now I don't. So I'm sleek, I'm fast, and it feels good. You know, this big bulk that can punch you in the side of the leg. Anyways, guys, yeah, so AJS News, we continue to play some video games. What's coming up? What do we got coming up? I don't know what friggin' games are coming out anymore. The biggest one, right? I guess we're done with big releases. Look, I just put everybody on the spot and not a single one.
Well, I mean, coming out. I mean,
Come on,
Final Fantasy
come on.
is the
No,
one that's out. That's
no, the
current.
next big one. Next big one. I mean, we're playing Final Fantasy right now.
It's 1 month. Well, the first story we got a game that's actually now 1 month away.
1 month?
Yeah.
What game?
Yes.
Baldur's Gate 3 got moved up a whole month.
Oh. Yeah. Actually, okay, so we're right. There's really nothing huge in the next month, so this could be an opportunity for us to catch up.
What is my absolute favorite retro arcade game? I don't know. That's a good question. To be honest, like, I don't think I have a favorite retro arcade game. Maybe, I don't know. I wasn't prepared for that question.
Job. Perfect. All right. In hobby news, Warhammer just released a trailer for their brand new game coming out later.
Truth be told, I don't know what I'm prepared for, to be honest, today. Like, I don't know how I'm up right now. I don't know anything right now. I don't know why there isn't any gaming news. Like, I don't have an answer. Like, I know what you're talking about. I was not prepared for that. That's the best time to add. I don't think that is. I think you ambushed me. You ambushed the crap out of me.
Later this year, Epic. I was big into Epic a long time ago. I guess it was a 9 where you can actually do mass battles. So we'll probably get into that around November. So the hobby, it's a great time to get into Warhammer. Hopefully you guys are joining us on Wednesdays and Sundays for our streams. And let's jump into some gaming news.
Yes, it is. It is very much so an ambush. Because I was not prepared for any of that. You ambushed me with your question. You cannot get around that fact. I don't know if I have any toes to stand on, or think on for that matter. Like, I seriously don't know how I'm up. And I don't know how that guy was riding his horse. I don't want to fight these guys. I am actually not gonna do this. I'm not. How are arsonists down here now?
What's happened over the past week, Alex? In game.
Well, Baldur's Gate moved up.
Coffee does not help me.
But they moved up to August 3rd. Oh. And they pretty much said, what they said is,
why is there
I'm not ready. Play, knowing exactly that Starfield is the massive release.
Is it July 3rd or August 3rd?
It's going to August.
August 3rd, yeah.
But yeah, I saw like it's gonna be like 200 hours.
Wings right now? I mean, it sounds good.
Done for one of the reasons it took them 6 years to do it. Still don't like a 2-year-long early access patch.
Yeah, I hear that. That's why I like Concentrate, Baldur's Gate, until it's out. And then I'm like, okay, now
there you go.
I don't want to hear about it
spamming
until
at this
it's
point.
fucking out.
So it's going to give you more time to play this. Now, the only problem is they couldn't rush the PS5 release. So the PS5 version is day and date with Starfield. So if you're going to have to make some tough decisions. Now, the good thing is if you only have a PlayStation,
It's not a tough decision.
You can't play Starfield anyway. Because be honest, so those people at least you'll have Alright, we got some good news in the Netherlands. Quote, as of this moment, ban loot boxes in games. They want to do this, they tried to actually do this before, but the Dutch Gambling Authority wanted to regulate it, and according to politicians, were like, look, as of right now, our events are broken the law in any way, so we can't do it based on how it exists now. But this is the big but. We're gonna change the fucking law so we can regulate.
Yeah, basically
Seriously,
out
why
of law, allowing better regulation.
Every year you gotta get a new one, so it's just waste.
Why are loot boxes still a conversation? No, I'm good. I'm not doing that right now.
Yeah. So they're really playing into that, and then we go back to more stuff from Jim Ryan, who's just saying more stuff. You know, where they're like.
That's not why I clicked on this video. I clicked on this video so that I could see what's going on.
For a year, that'll
Baldur's
hold
Gate.
me over
It's
2024.
Hundreds of hours.
I really like Baldur's Gate. Alright, and then 2025, 2026. This just sucks.
Rogue
It was
Trader?
announced way too goddamn soon.
Yeah.
Rogue Trader, yeah.
Yeah, you
I'll
play
do
100 hours
Warhammer,
of Rogue
40,000 Rogue Trader.
Okay. Ubisoft. Nothing but good things come from them. All they do is win. So Ubisoft has announced a new blockchain game. This one is called Champions Tactics for Moral Chronicles. And
So what's the update on Skull and Bones? They have blockchain.
Wait, what?
Shut up. No, we're talking about
Shut
Champions
up.
Tactics.
That game already came out and it failed, according to Ubisoft. They don't even do marketing on that game.
No.
Hey, just shut up.
We never
Hey, when
said
is your
anything about that game.
When is your game coming? Shut up! Just shut up about Skull and
Talking about a
Bones.
different game.
We've already moved on from it. You need to move on from it. That's so sad. Okay, so Ubisoft is up to their old.
Yeah. So this is a brand new PvP tactical RPG experimental game. And that's the quote. And there's a lot of things going on. If you want to know more about the game?
No.
Tough shit. You don't get to know anything because there is no other information.
Okay, good.
All that we know is it's on the Oasis blockchain. They abandoned the other blockchain. They were on the Tezos blockchain for Ubisoft Ports. Who cares?
If this doesn't,
I wonder really how well blockchain is actually doing, because I haven't heard anything about blockchain in quite some time. And I don't know if it's just because my algorithms or what, but I haven't heard shit about it. So I don't know why that's still a conversation either.
raise any red flags for you?
This is actually kind of important because they tried with Ghost Recon Breakpoint and they were on this other blockchain and they're like, fuck it, we can't do this. It's terrible reception, and so they're switching blockchains. And if they're if they are so hardcore and they're abandoning their own shit, you should not be buying any of these things. So
red flags.
Don't.
The blockchain is gonna be great.
Cancel
Okay,
it, cancel
okay,
it,
okay, okay.
cancel
Not
it.
that blockchain.
Yeah.
Maybe this other blockchain will be great. Yeah, nah, fuck off. Fuck off. Fuck that game. Don't buy the game. If you buy the game, you're not my friend.
So Ubisoft has halted development on April for Ghost Recon Breakpoint.
Watch where you swing that staff.
They
because everyone hated
halted
it. Yeah, they're just like, nope, we're not going to do any more of this stuff. So can't wait to see what.
Lived in this
I hope no
vault.
one buys.
The one you're
Oh shit! I totally forgot about the chicken hat.
Explain yourself.
I was gonna grab it this morning too. I totally spaced that out.
What's left of you
Again,
are
I don't know how I'm up. Okay.
You have a teacher? Don't tell me Loreth has taken another apprentice.
I don't need a teacher to study. Lilith.
Don't buy this. Don't buy anything on it.
Tell all your friends not to buy it. Blockchain is a
I need to
scam.
prepare
It will ruin gaming.
Now we're gonna fail. No, this one.
You
This
need to
one's for
explain
real.
it. Refer people to hundreds of YouTube videos.
It's a confidence-based scheme, and you should have zero confidence in Ubisoft. Period.
I came to
Period.
get my things.
Nothing they do,
I
you should
pray
have
they were
confidence.
free from your
Yeah.
meddling.
So
Except for delaying games. Hey.
So the confidence in their incompetence.
Didn't they say they're gonna try to remake Black Flag or something like that?
What?
Is that?
I like Black Flag. I'll buy it.
How are they going to ruin that one?
No, Joe, you making this shut up?
No.
All right, well, they're gonna remake Black Flag.
Is that that's
Maybe.
that's nothing official because I would have.
He would have known.
I'm blind.
Next news story while Joe looks it up.
All right, we have there's some bad stuff happening in France right now. Several days of unrest.
Yeah, there's shit burning.
Yeah, there's a.
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry.
Yeah, we'll do it after.
Police fatality. They shot a 17-year-old delivery driver in Paris. They're talking about 40,000 police officers in the streets and riots. If the French know how to do anything, it's cook and riot. It's bad. And so the French president has blamed the riots on TikTok, Snapchat, and video games. Because
how many times do we have to teach you?
This
man?
is the juicy
Not
stuff.
where there's stats. There's
Are you
everything.
serious?
There's statistics.
He blamed it on video. He's blaming the riots on video games.
Yeah.
Tread carefully.
How?
We summon the
Okay,
spirit
let me
in
explain.
you.
So we'll start with what he said about.
Loreth assured me that he banished it
Yeah,
for good.
it's pretty bad. Now he's blaming it on the social media, saying like
Because of the cheap game. I know where it is.
pretty much he's trying to mention saying that the social media platforms are ways for people to share this content, and it's like yes, but it is police shooting a minor. That's not good content. It's not like they're making it up. It's like they're sharing this stuff, and people are right to be upset about police shooting somebody. They're not executioners
For no reason.
Yeah, that's not what police are for. And so blaming Snapchat, and even Snapchat's like, look, we moderate as much as we can, but if people are posting factual information, we do nothing to it. So maybe the problem is there's a police issue.
The factual information.
Yeah, and they mentioned increase in housing and income inequality, police brutality, and the fact that race policy in France is just be colorblind and it's just not working. So that's one of those things. And then he goes on to
Video games.
And then
It's the easiest.
That's what it's all politicians. It's the oldest fucking page in their playbook.
Yeah.
It's been around
Oldest.
since
Well,
99.
no, the oldest page is music. That's satanic music. Record came before video.
Yeah, it was that, and then it was the Dragons video
Video games.
Yeah.
The rock music.
So what he said is, we sometimes have the feeling that some of them are living out in the streets. The video games that have intoxicated them.
Yes, because I want to go be a plumber and rescue princesses.
Spoken like a
video
true
games.
ignorant asshole that has never played a video game.
He's looking to point a finger at someone. It's so hard to hold back.
Oh,
Policy
yeah.
you are responsible for the government.
Yeah, the rats because he done fucked it up and his response to it has not been very good. So, the first case goes.
Yeah, his response was to increase 2,000 the streets because nothing calms people down like giving them a massive amount of people they view as enemies in front of them.
Lilith hails
was
from
not
her
good.
father's domain.
Great.
Alright, Joe, tell us about
Oh
the
yeah, from
fucking
Kotaku
movie
it says
not for
sources: Assassin's Creed publisher remaking Black Flag. The pirate.
Okay, nobody cares about that. I don't anyway. I definitely give no fucks about that.
All the places Mephisto's hatred yet lingers. There's just one last thing.
Won't let me interact with him. What the fuck?
Yes. I bet Lorath still wears his. The Order's mission was his lifeblood. I couldn't give up my life for it. Not like him. I wanted to be a man. I left to chase family, fellowship, glory. And for what? You saw how that ended. My son. I can't do it. It wouldn't work anyway.
Donan.
You don't understand. The stuff soul stones are made of, they're old as the eternal conflict itself. With magic so primordial, you need faith. You need spirit. I have none.
What you lack in faith, you have in allies.
Who? You?
Yes. You're the only one who can help us.
Unfortunately, you may be right. I can't make any promises. Really. But I can try. For you two, I'll try. Let's hear what the old man has to say.
Coffee and wings yet? Why does everybody always suggest me to coffee knowing I don't like coffee first off? And then second of all, like, coffee don't do it for me. That's like the go-to for everybody. And it don't work for me. Like I said, honestly, I'm awake. And I don't know how.
This place is a treasure trove. Look at this masterpiece. Kalha's beyond the veil of the southern jungles.
You're familiar with Kalha's work?
She's brilliant. One of my favorites.
Mine as well.
You do it to be an annoyance.
Have
You
you
don't
read her
have to do
treatises?
that to be an annoyance. You do
Never mind.
realize that, right?
You can tell me on the road.
On the road?
I'm going to help you. I know the Haradrim's ways, your magic, even that coded writing system you use. And don't tell me it's too dangerous. Lilith took my mother. I'll do whatever it takes to stop her.
That's a good speech. Might even convince the man you should be telling it to. Come on. headed to
You know, I don't even know how many chapters are in this game,
Isn't this
or how many
your
acts are in this game.
It was once.
It's an added bonus? No, you lose points for that. Sorry. I'm not giving you points for added annoyances. There's so much stuff that I need to get to. There must be like a billion fucking chapters in this game or something. Ugh, my chin itches. Oh man. Get your little ass over here. Get over here, treasure goblin. Damn right. Alright, so let's see what he dropped me. Well, that's worthless. Let's see what these heavy boots do. That's just as worthless. You know what? I'm not gonna drop anything else. Where are we at? I can just fast travel over here. Seriously, there's got to be more news. How is there no other news? How ironic. I just passed a video that said that Diablo IV is proving why modern video games is what? Is getting worse. Modern gaming is getting worse. And I'm sitting here playing Diablo IV. really nothing going on. Let's check out the biggest game releases.
No choice. The root will destroy everything.
Well, would you look at that? July is here, and along with it, a piping hot stack of video games fresh off the grill, or whatever backyard apparatus they use to prepare video games. Let's hope that all of these are fully cooked either way. Here are July 2023's biggest game releases. As always, the usual caveat that it's entirely possible that some of these games get delayed, or other games get announced and don't make the list, or we screw up and just forget something. But that said, here's what's expected in July as of June 21st, 2023. On July 4th, you can be a real son of liberty by firing off some Guns of the Patriots in Synapse. This PSVR 2 exclusive features the voice talents of Metal Gear Solid alums David Hayter and Jennifer Hale. It's from the studio behind the VR tactical kayaking game Phantom Covert Ops, which definitely had some Metal Gear stealth DNA. Synapse, on the other hand, looks more like Superhot crossed with Limbo, so if you're in need of some VR missions with a side of codec conversations, give it a shot. On the 6th, there's Guilt, a surreal narrative adventure that was formerly guilty of being a Stadia exclusive, and thankfully it's been exonerated and is now running on everything else except for Switch. The Legend of Heroes Trails into Reverie, the latest entry in the extremely long-running JRPG series, was released in Japan way back in 2020, but on July 7th, it is finally coming to the West, fully localized for PC, PS4, PS5, and Switch.
This'll be fun.
Jacob, 4 hours ago, a cult opened a portal above Edwards Island.
On July 12th, Oxenfree 2 Lost Signals expands the universe of Night School Studios' breakthrough debut indie adventure, and while it exists as a standalone story, it probably wouldn't hurt to play the first game. That's coming out to basically everything except for Xbox, which is a little weird. That's on PS4, PS5, PC, Mac, and even iOS and Android by way of the Netflix app. Night School was the first game studio acquired by the Screaming Giant, and they're
I think it's funny that he said it's weird that Oxenfree 2 isn't coming to Xbox. I'm not ready. Crap, I'm sitting here getting destroyed right now. I think it's funny that he said that though, knowing that there's a whole case going on with Microsoft versus the FTC. Like, I honestly think that's a pretty obvious pattern right there.
Supposedly an Oxenfree series in the works, though it's unclear when that's going to materialize. But in the meantime, if you're a Netflix subscriber, you can, I think, get this game for free by way of the iOS or Android app, so check it out. And the first game's already on there. On July 14th, Exoprimal is here to rip you a new one. A new what exactly? Well, how about a new hole in the sky that dinosaurs keep falling out of? You and a handful of other players must don some mech suits and kick those dinosaurs right in their dinosaur asses. That's on the PlayStations, the Xboxes, and PC. On the 18th, PS4, PS5, and PC players in the market for some brain-breakingly surreal puzzles are in for a treat with Viewfinder, which looks kind of like The Witness crossed with Instagram, but like in a good way. Before Instagram got all weird and bad, and kept trying to sell me that one Junji Ito cat t-shirt with a cat's biting his hand. I looked at it one time, and now it's just like always on my feed every time. And I still kind of want to buy the shirt, but I don't know. What should I do? Should I buy the shirt or not? Let me know in the comments.
It's been a while since someone's wandered around this place. And wanderers always welcome.
The 2009 Nintendo DS game Might and Magic Clash of Heroes got a nice current-gen glow-up, and on the 20th, the definitive edition comes to PS4, Switch, and PC. A day later, thousands of disgusting vermin will infest your Nintendo Switch when Pikmin 4 drops. It's up to you to boss them around and save Captain Olimar's bacon from all sorts of even more horrifying beasts, such as Bulborbs, Borrowing Snagrets, Fiery Blowhogs, Toady Boisters, and Water Dumples. That's right, Water Dumples. Those are back. Anyway, on the 25th, Mr. Run and Jump runs and jumps onto basically everything. That means Switch, PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, and S, and I'm not kidding, Atari 2600. You're probably going to see a slight graphical disparity between the next-gen versions and the version made for the console that came out when Jimmy Carter was in office, but hey, you got to applaud Atari for keeping those early adopters in mind, assuming they're not in retirement homes. And even if they are, I don't mean to be like ageist. That's good. I think elderly folks should play more video games. They're fun. They're a great way to pass time. Anyway, also on the 25th, and probably the game I should have led with, is Remnant 2, the hotly anticipated sequel to Remnant of the Ashes, lovingly known among its community as Dark Souls with guns. And the sequel looks to up the ante quite a bit, featuring some impressive visuals and way more variation in its procedurally generated levels. That's on new gen and PC.
Fighting that kind is always a last resort. Even if it would defeat them, it should eventually come back. It's a smarter weapon.
Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart was one of the coolest showcases of exactly what the PS5 can do, and on the 26th, you get to find out if your PC can actually run it. Best case scenario, it's super well optimized like God of War was, and it'll look and play great on your ultra-wide PC monitor, and you can add a bunch of mods to replace the cast with character models from The Simpsons Hit and Run for whatever reason.
How are you lifting that?
Eat your broccoli, Bart. Eat your broccoli.
Worst case scenario, it's a total mess like The Last of Us Part 1, and you get weird glitches, like the one that made the characters look increasingly wet for no reason, like that Jordan Peele sweating clip. On the 27th, Vimy and Jimmy are back to rescue their girlfriend from Abobo, probably, in Double Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons. It's an all-new Double Dragon game. I don't know why I said that. It's pretty self-explanatory. On a related note, when's the last time you watched that Double Dragon movie? Because it is a beautiful mess. Most video game movies are bad in the tedious, unenjoyable way, like having to go to the bathroom when you're in the window seat on a red-eye flight. This one is bad to the point of enjoyable, like when a truck carrying something funny overturns, nobody gets hurt, but there's a huge traffic jam because there are eels or skittles or sex toys all over the freeway. Anyway, the point of my story is Double Dragon Gaiden Rise of the Dragons is out for everything July 27th. And I don't know where the movie's streaming, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Speaking of streaming, The Expanse is one of the most beloved and critically acclaimed sci-fi series in recent memory, so of course it got canceled. But on the bright side, it's now getting a new narrative video game. The Expanse, the Telltale series, hits the PlayStation's, Xboxes, and PC on July 27th. On July 28th, Disney Illusion Island hits Switch, so whether you're trying to kill some time while you're waiting for Space Mountain, or trying to save a few bucks by skipping the peak season trip to a Disney park in general, this looks like a nice time. Really dig that hand-drawn look. Hey, somebody should remake Mickey Mania. I love that game. Finally, hitting everything on the 31st is Venba, and it's maybe the most gorgeous cooking game to date. Most of these games either aim for realistic visuals and gameplay like Cooking Simulator, or they take a more playful approach like Overcooked or Cooking Mama, but this one seems like a really intimate slice of life game about making food for an Indian household, and I think that's just lovely. Sometimes we get games that are these massive, sprawling, epic universes to explore, and sometimes they're more like picture books. And you know what they say, variety is the spice of life, and spice is the spice of food. And food is the way to a man's heart, and home is where the heart is. And at Olive Garden, when you're here, you're family. And that about covers it. July is maybe the slowest month in what's otherwise the busiest year of video games in recent history, possibly ever. What are you playing this month? Is it one of these games, or are you sticking with some of the massive games that dropped in, I don't know, the last few months? Because it's kind of a bad year for backlogs. Let me know in the comments, and of course, if we forgot something, shout it out in the comments as well. And if you're mad that I ramble on too much and you'd rather just get a concise, humorless, robotic list of gamers...
Shut up. I don't know if I'm mad that you ramble, but yeah. I hate how IGN is so careful with their words when it comes to certain issues. Like, it's weird that Oxenfree 2 isn't on Microsoft, or isn't on Xbox. Yeah, dude, I don't know why you're surprised. I have no idea why you're surprised. I'm surprised that you're surprised. That's where I'm at. So the Golem game, I think, got shut down too. That's pretty funny. You said they did him dirty? I don't know if they did him dirty or not, because I was never interested in it. I was definitely not interested in that game. And you know what's the crazy part is that we've been seeing a lot of this in the last couple of years, and everybody is still shocked by how this is still happening. I want to point this out because I always notice this. I'm not really hating on this guy or anything, but I want to point out the fact that every single one of his, almost every single video that talks about anything that might be surprising, he'll always put like interesting. It's interesting, or something got leaked. Like this, that's like the big talking points here.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the other day, out of nowhere, a massive leak hit the internet.
Again, I have nothing against this guy at all.
And this one in particular gives us a look behind the scenes of the console wars during the 90s, specifically though from Sega's perspective. And I've gone through all the documents and wanted to point out some of the highlights here today. Also, we are going to be talking about the Pokemon Company attempting to open official forums for Pokemon and went how you'd expect online in 2023. Oh, and we do also have an update to go over for The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom that gives people struggling with the overwhelming amount of content, well, just more stuff to do. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button. Helps out a ton. And if new here to the spawn, cloud and console, this game was already in Game Pass previously. It left, and now it's come back.
I'm not interested in any of those games either.
Version of the game with updated frame rate, visuals, all of that. So if you've not tried GTA 5, yeah, I recommend it. It's a good game. Even now,
honestly, it's probably a really good game. I played like all of what, like an hour or two of it, and I got bored. It's not because I want to hate on it. I just don't think it's for me anymore.
That's because they've parted ways with FIFA when it comes to.
Oh, is he talking about? Holy shit! He's talking about.
Wondering when is this game coming?
So, so EA, that's something. EA really got hit with a lawsuit over a soccer game. Or no, it wasn't a soccer game. It was a college football game. And I don't know. That was just completely left field.
Coming out. Seems like the release date has leaked a bit early. This from D-Labs, and they have this posted up over on their website. Translated saying September 19th, and we can come up with.
Is he not going to talk about that?
Their own game comes up with.
I mean, it happened like a couple of days ago.
Later on in September. Oh, and the plot continues to thicken around the potential for a Red Dead Redemption remake. We also plan to launch 2 new iterations of previously released titles in fiscal 2024. This would run up to, I believe, the end of March 2024. So I'm envisioning at least one game this holiday, maybe one to kick off 2024 in that first quarter. Red Dead Redemption seems to be the clear front runner here for one of these. The other one, Maybe it's Red Dead Redemption 2 getting that 60 FPS or next-gen version on the PS5. But it is a massive 272-page document dump that was just dropped online, and people have been going through it over the last several days. I initially saw it from this tweet here that pointed it out. This was from John Harrison, or Mega Drive Shock, saying, this is huge, a 272-page PDF of classified Sega of America documents from 1996 was just posted online. Think back to 1996. This is when Sega was in the trenches against Sony with their new system on the block, the PlayStation, and also hearing about the rumblings and the build-up for Nintendo with their Ultra 64 or Nintendo 64 that was upcoming. Sega was, I mean, they were at war, as we say, the console wars, big time. And I was going through the documents. There was a lot.
Dude, that was obvious though. They were making commercials talking about what Nintendo don't. Like, they made it completely and utterly obvious that they were trying to knock Nintendo off of the market. And what ended up happening is that all of these other systems were out and they were getting knocked off, so they didn't think they had anything to worry about. Then PlayStation comes along and they just start dominating the competition because they have all these new and fascinating games. And then Nintendo 64 comes out and it has Mario 64. You have Mario Kart that comes out later. Like, there's so many things that happened. Oh, let's not forget Ocarina of Time, because that was like one of the biggest sellers right there. How does Sega compete with that? Because Nights in the Dreams was great, but man, it's really hard to build your franchise. And Saturn was the only, I believe it was the only console from Sega that didn't start off with a Sonic game, which was crazy. That is nuts.
Here that people are pulling from this. The big name you want to keep an eye on, though, is Tom Kalinske, who's the former CEO of Sega of America during this time. That name pops up quite a bit in several emails, but right off the bat, page 1 is just the 1996 E3 floor plan. They're kind of penciling stuff in, trying to figure out where TVs and consoles and stands, all of this are going to be. It's kind of cool to see, I guess, the sort of the process here, even though this is from 1996, quite a while ago, 27 years ago. I don't know, it's still kind of neat there. I remember that was like the second or third year of E3, right? For the planning stage. So, interesting stuff. Moving to page 10, though. The Sega Saturn. We got retail margins for all of these systems, accessories, games. 6% retail margin on the Sega Saturn. That is really, really bad. That's to the point where it's not even worth stocking something like that unless...
That's why Dreamcast went under, though. That's why Dreamcast was their last system. Because how do you recover from that? That's so damn ridiculous. It's so hard to recover from that and then come out with another system like shortly after that. Because when did the Dreamcast come out? Around like 2000? Around 1999, 2000? And as soon as that dropped, and then you had GameCube and PlayStation 2 around that same time too. Like, goodness gracious, man. Like, you cannot keep up with the competition after that, man. Like, it's just over. And it's good that Sega's not dead, because they're actually better as a third party developing team. But man, like, the Dreamcast opened the doors for so much to happen. But you just cannot recover from such a bad profit deficit like this.
There is more on the software, which, I mean, there is. I don't know if it's enough to make up for all of this, though, because the concept of a used game still kind of new at that time, and I don't know if retailers had really wrapped their mind around it completely, so they were kind of relying on the
And I don't know if you can see this list, but it's just like I said before. Saturn was the only console that did not start off with a Sonic. And I think that was like their biggest mistake. And what ended up what ended up happening is that it turned out to be a blessing in disguise for for Dreamcast though, because Sonic Adventures was a beast of a game. But if they would have released that, but imagine if they would have released that for Saturn. If they would have released that for Saturn, I think things would have been so much better. I think things would have went a little bit different for them. Maybe not by much, but I think it would have made the difference between whether or not we got a Dreamcast and whether or not they just became a third-party developing team. There's just so many things that would have changed had they released the Sonic game right out of the gate.
Retail margin, which is something else that comes up later on in this document dump. Now on page 18, there was an email from Tom Kalinske saying that Sega, they are killing Sony in Japan with the Saturn, saying that the Saturn is selling out everywhere. There are stacks of PlayStation consoles still left over. Kind of, I guess, trying to build up the Sega of Japan at the time, because in the US, the Saturn was doing all right, but like Sega was a pretty big brand. The Genesis was rolling, and that was a lot of that being Tom Kalinsche's work there. But according to Tom, in interviews after the fact, they kind of grew to resent the U.S. branch for Sega because they were doing so well, but in Japan, it not quite as well. So yeah, it's a lot of clashing internally at Sega.
That actually makes more sense why. I hate to say this, but it makes more sense why Sony has become more focused on other markets other than their own. I think it is super important that they focus on their own, but like this actually, when you look at these documents that he's showing, it actually paints a completely different picture for why Sony does what they do now. Like, that's nuts.
Say, in a time where they definitely had to all be on the same page. On page 30, they did mention Nintendo positioning the N64 as the ultimate game machine and how they should try to get out in front of that. Moving to page 131, Sega explains why the PS1 is beating the Saturn, and they mention Sony leveraging their vast company equity and resources. Remember, Sony was bigger than Sega at the time. Kind of interesting how it contrasts now to where Sony's talking about Microsoft leveraging their vast equity and resources for really the large company behind just Xbox. I also noticed at the bottom of page 192, they're going over software, things they have to sort out for the year when it comes to getting these games to the holiday season.
That's it, guys. I might go to PC. I might go to PC completely, because that's nuts. I've had this conversation before where I said that PlayStation is in the exact same position against Microsoft that Sega was against Nintendo. Keep in mind, Nintendo's been around since like 1890 something. So they're everybody's granddaddy. They're your great granddaddy. They're your great 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 granddaddy. Nintendo's not going anywhere. The fact that they keep bringing them up the fact that the FTC brought them up in their conversations in the courtroom, it makes no sense. They should not be in your mouth. They should never be in your conversation. They should never be a talking point, because Nintendo is a whole nother monster, and you will never be able to talk. Yeah, 1890 something. Maybe a little bit farther back. Maybe like 1880 something. I don't know. I have to look it up. They're a really old company though. They're extremely old company. But when you look back, my math ain't mathing. What am I off on? Tell me what I'm off on. It was around 1890 or something of that matter. But anyway, they shouldn't be the talking point for anybody. Nintendo's going to be around for a very long time. And so here we have Sega in the same position. 1889. Okay, so how is my math off then? Either way, they were going up against a monster and they had no business doing it. The ironic part is, so the irony of all of this is that Sony has been around longer than Microsoft. That's the irony of all of this. Microsoft is the youngest company out of all three of them. And yet Microsoft has made more, has grossed more over their short period of time than Sony. That's nuts to me. What's going on, Silver? So I find this a little ironic here when you're making a comparison.
For the Saturn to do well, and they had a typo for Duke Nukem. They called it Duke Nukem 3D. I just thought I'd point that out. But on page 269, there's discussion on retailer margins. As I mentioned, the Sega Saturn have a 6% retail margin. They seem to become aware that margins are too small, and they're concerned that retailers will just opt to not sell video games anymore, like big box stores, which, what was at the time, I guess Sears.
No, they opted to not sell their video games anymore. That's what happened.
I mean, you had a lot of older stores that aren't around necessarily now even, but they would just opt to save that retail space for something else, and they would be relegated to, like, the specialty stores. They even mentioned that Nintendo kind of downsized some of their, they say...
That's pretty cool. What are you doing on your vacation?
Retail doors from 20,000 to...
Wait, what did he say?
To, like, the specialty stores. They even mentioned that Nintendo kind of downsized some of their, they say, retail doors from 20,000 to 10,000 because they were facing something similar. So they had to kind of work some stuff up behind the scenes with math. All of this, by the way, is in plain view in this document dump. One last thing, and I thought kind of interesting for people who are really big into the history of Sega and even unreleased platforms. On page 271, so the second to last page, the Pluto is discussed. This was an unreleased version of the Saturn that apparently was going to be building in like a network adapter and some sort of storage medium, so it'd be able to get online immediately, which we did see translate over to the Dreamcast. But this is discussed with Packard Bell coming up as a potential partner and discussion.
Holy crap, Packard Bell? Oh man, that is a brand I haven't heard of in a long time.
Around the web browser and the ownership and how they would work that all out, so that of course the Pluto came with the way to get online. But this is just a fascinating look. And
so wait, so you're gonna be streaming more, playing new games with your new laptop? What games are you playing?
A lot of these are just highlights that I was able to spot as I was going through it. I'm sure many people are really going to comb through all of this and find little bits of details, match them up with the timeline. Really, this is 1996 to 1997 when things were really competitive there between Sega and Sony. So a lot of interesting detail. I recommend going through it. Again, it's weird because it just dropped online, and it's very clear that there are things.
It honestly, when he was reading that document, it sounded like it was more competitive for Sega and Nintendo, and that when Sony dropped, like, they were the biggest threat to them. There was no competition at that time for them because I don't think anybody really knew what Sony was gonna do. I don't think they knew what Sony was capable of.
Things in here that are not supposed to have been made public even now, as there are marketing deals and even full scans of crushed cereal boxes and oatmeal boxes and stuff with Sonic on the front. Interesting stuff. But yeah, go take a look, see what you can find. Next up, let's talk about the Pokemon Company and how they attempted to a disaster. No life, and well, we can see this posted up there actually, and they say Pokemon launches official community forums and it's already a disaster. I like the quotes, Miiverse is back, which there are many tweets where people are screen capping different titles and topics, and like Ultima was.
No, I do not care about this. I guess
fun like this, and
what else we got?
Tears of the Kingdom, and an update that's actually hit the game.
Let's see what this
now,
update
the title
is.
continues to roll along in terms of sales. It's consistently in like the top eShop chart sales. If you go on the eShop, you can see at the top for downloads. It's top the UK sales charts once again, and I'm sure when the MPD results come out for June, it'll still be up there. And Nintendo has continued updating it, which a lot of the updates have mostly been, hey, we fixed the duplication bug that you just found last week, without outright saying that. But it looks like there's another interesting footnote in the most recent updates, which you can see posted up here. This is for version 1.2.0, released on July 4th. Now, the general updates is the big one. The additional fixes mostly are just little things that people have run into that I'm sure they've gotten like tickets or bug patch or bug notes for, and they've gone back and fixed it. And several issues have been addressed to improve gameplay experience. To me, that's just them working out duplication glitches that they've.
Yep, I agree. It is definitely PC time. Truth be told, like, I don't know. It just seems like it's just one thing after another with these consoles, man. Minus the Switch. Like, the Switch is keeping people fed, and you know what the funny part about it is people have been complaining about there not being anything to do but won't buy a Switch. Meanwhile, owners of Switches have been happy. They might not have been like too happy because of the games that have been coming out, but they've definitely been happy enough to where that they're gaming. They have they have something to do. Whereas if they were to go to like PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X, like you got a couple of things to do on PlayStation 5. You got next to nothing to do on the Xbox Series X. It just sucks. And if you do have something to do on the Series X, like, it's not games that are interesting. And so it might very well be PC time. I might have to become a PC bro. Because truth be told, like, since I got the PlayStation 5, I've been enjoying it. My Xbox has been collecting dust. I don't know if you can see it right here, like right in the background here. It's just collecting dust. I haven't turned it on. I got this PlayStation 5. I've done all kinds of crazy crap with it. Like, if you look behind my head, this side over here, like, I switched the face plates off on this bad boy. Like, I've done so much more, and it's like I feel like gathering trophies more than I do achievements. So, I don't know, but I think it's definitely it might be a PC time. It might be PC time.
Seeing people demonstrate online, but the general update, starting the game from within certain articles released on a specific Switch news channel, players can receive a number of in-game items, and depending on the state of gameplay, progression, or location which data is reopened, there may be cases in which the items cannot be retrieved. Now, this is something they did with Breath of the Wild specifically, and it was just ways to promote it through the news
so
channel.
They just fixed the duplication? It was also a fun way
just to add in extra items or themes. Like 10 things to do or the end of the game and all this, especially if you get all the tiers and stuff and you see that play out, it's gonna make you want to go to the end of the game. But now you have new items seemingly that'll be added in, things to keep an eye on, and ways for Nintendo to keep updating this game outside of just downloadable content. Now, which is going to be linked to Nintendo and their next generation transition, moving from the Switch to whatever their next platform is, because Nintendo has specifically talked about Nintendo accounts being a key aspect to this. But we can see this over on Twitter, and it blew up right away, kind of as you'd expect.
Wait, what is this?
It's a bunch of job listings, so people who are looking for work, I mean, there's a lot of stuff there to do. But two, they say Nintendo Systems plans, develops, and operates Nintendo's network services, systems, and new services. We will start recruiting careers for various jobs related to services such as Nintendo Account and Nintendo eShop. If you're interested...
Oh, that's dope. So they have job openings for Nintendo.
Support. Payment infrastructure development engineer, development environment engineer, game machine specifically, not necessarily Switch, game machine. Digital purchases.
Oh, this is where he starts talking about his little...
game.
This is where he starts talking about his
maybe
polls.
Nintendo decides we can add on a little bit more to the map and just put a whole bunch of side quests in there.
I don't care. I don't care after that point. Where is... Wait, did I really
watch
watch
this? The video, but first, a word from...
Is word from your sponsor a really bad... Is at the beginning a really bad place to put your word from your sponsors? Do we think that word from your sponsor should be put at the beginning of a video, or maybe at the end? Or even in the middle?
Off your order. Again, that's a mighty key. Oh, the new Final Fantasy game just came out. It's the 16th mainline game? Good God. Yeah, I heard about it. But it doesn't have turn-based combat, so trash. Yeah, I feel you. But is that so bad?
I mean, truth be told, you could skip it at any point in time that you want to. Like, even if you, well, except for at the end. I mean, at the end, by the end of the video, you're already done with the content that you've already consumed. So, I mean, I don't know. You could skip it through the middle. You could skip it at the beginning. I mean, I guess I don't understand the logic behind that one. But then I don't have to wonder if it's coming up. Wonder if what's coming up. Oh, so you're saying like if you're watching a video and then all of a sudden they just go, well, this video is brought to you in part by, and then yeah, okay, I get
it. You said, is that so bad? Is that so bad? I don't know. Is it so bad that they changed the fundamental combat system that defined this series and a generation of games and gamers? Is that so bad?
And honestly, they kind of didn't change. they didn't change too much from 15. And I'd argue that they were starting to go that direction when they were doing the Kingdom Hearts series.
You don't think turn-based combat is a little old? You know? A little outdated at this point? Would you say that about critically acclaimed Persona 5 Royale? Persona. Is that game for people who didn't go to social events or have meaningful relationships in high school? Could you lower your voice, please? Look, turn-based combat is in the past, bro. Alright, I want something more engaging.
Can you lower your voice, please? Give it to me at the beginning if I care about the company promo. I mean, who really gives a fuck about these companies though? Like, truth be told, like, does anybody go to a YouTube video and say, I am going to this YouTube video specifically to see what they are promoting so I can buy it? I mean, I could very well be wrong. But the last time I checked, people had ad blockers on their to help manage the ads. I don't know of too many people that want to watch ads when they're consuming content though. So I mean, like, I don't know.
Engaging. Turn-based combat is very engaging. As long as your IQ and shoe size ain't the same number.
Yeah!
Is that necessary? Or maybe...
Hold on. What does he have that's interesting? Hair care products? Or everybody's favorite, the Ridge Wallet. That thing has been getting... That thing has more ad time than Raid Shadow Legends. That and Raycons.
You just want turn-based combat because your geriatric fingers can't keep up with all the action. You don't like turn-based combat because your generation is full of...
Wait, is it his brand though? Because if it's his brand, if you're selling something, then that makes... That's completely and utterly different, right? But if you're like selling something from somebody else, do we care about what it is that's being sold from somebody else?
Instant gratification needing, short attention span having idiots. I don't have short attention span. Yes, you do. All that for the Titanic? That's insane, bro. You would never catch my black ass in... What were we talking about? Wow. Look
Sounds
at this.
about right.
Now I'm seeing this game can't even reach 60 FPS consistently. Oh, look, it's 60 FPS. Shut up. You're just afraid of
That right there is how I feel every time somebody brings that shit up in a conversation. Like, shut the F up about it. I don't care. If the game is good, then let the game be good. Jeez, man.
I'm not afraid of change. I'm afraid of the gaming community being ruined by kids like you just buying the next flashy stuff with no substance. It has substance.
Hey, guess what? That's what 60 FPS games offer. No substance. It's great to look at, but man, I've played so many fucking I played so many 60 FPS games that were boring as fuck. And it always turns out, and maybe that's just me, but like it just seems like, I don't know. It's not the only thing that matters. Like, we find one thing about a game and then we focus on that shit.
Since the combat and the story are godlike. Your mama ugly, and that's why you don't like turn-based combat. Your grandma was born with 3 titties. They called that bitch udders in middle school. Your daddy sucked toes for crack. Because Final Fantasy 16 looks beautiful, that's why you mad. It runs at 720p resolution. I can see. But when Tears of the Kingdom does it, everybody okay. That's on the Switch. It gets a pass. How about we switch the topic? Because you guys aren't even having a conversation anymore. All you're doing is attacking each other personally rather than each other's points. Yeah. What? Of course. Why would we have a real like this whole thing is a metaphor of obnoxious discourse revolving around gaming on social media. Why would we have a real conversation? You expect us to have a real conversation? Look at this guy, bro. On websites like Twitter? What a loser! What the? Oh God!
Left field.
And another thing.
Or that's. I thought he was gonna go left field with that one. I like Mighty Keith. Mighty Keith is hilarious. You know, there are so many of his videos that I've missed. Silver said she can't type in your chat anymore for some reason, but she sent me a DM. Oh, wait, what? That's weird. Where'd she send me a DM through? Was it through here? That's weird. Why did it stop her from talking? Because it's not like I put anybody in timeout.
I am Mighty Keith. This video is brought to you by Alien Clothing. Stick around to the end of the video to see what they have to offer.
This is absolutely insane. Did you try Microsoft, sir? They won't pick up either. I'm sorry to hear that, sir. We're gonna lose everything. I'm gonna lose sponsors. I'm gonna lose fans. But we haven't lost everything, sir. We still have Ubisoft.
Okay, there you are. You're back. I don't know why it did that. Because from the screen that I'm looking at, I can't put anybody in timeout. And I don't really have any reason to put anybody in timeout. So, I don't know what happened. I can't put you in timeout either. But yeah, Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Yeah, I got bored of that game real fast, but I hope you enjoy it. I think so. I don't remember if you got it for me or if I got it. You might have got it for me. But I hope, like I said, I hope you enjoy it, cause yeah, I got really bored of that.
We just lost Ubisoft.
God damn it!
It's a tragedy, sir.
Do you see what George Kellerman has done to me?
How are you still unable to pronounce his name?
Put Ubisoft on the line.
You know, that has happened before, like certain phrase. I don't know if it's doing like a Facebook thing or whatever, but like certain phrases won't go through on certain ends. So sometimes I'll see it on one screen and I won't see it on the other. And sometimes it just doesn't go through at all. So I don't know if that's like a YouTube thing or not.
Right now.
All right, boys, talk to me, huh? What's the next big thing? What we doing? How about open world adventure game? Okay. With microtransactions. Ooh, you're wetting my whistle. Ooh, what if we put a bunch of like checklist type quests around the world, right? To keep the players engaged. Engaged or distracted? Distracted? Well, distracted from what? From better games. That's why you're the leader. 1 second. Talk to me. You ever seen a man get his nuts chopped off and fed to him? No, I can't say I have. Well, that's what's gonna happen to you.
So that doesn't happen often on YouTube then. So I don't know. I mean, truth be told, I've only been streaming on YouTube for like a week now. And I'm on Kick too. So there's that. I don't know if maybe the multi-streaming has something to do with it. Like the name we have for Tuesdays, it didn't go through for the chat. What name do we have for Tuesdays? Guess I'm lost on that one.
After this betrayal, what are you, the Russian mafia? We're black. We don't do things like this. Look, buddy, you're a great guy. But the days of the week-long E3 showcase with the G4 coverage, while beautiful, has sadly come to an end. I don't like that. Well, it's just something you're gonna have to get used to. It's no attack towards you personally, you know. This is just business. Again, it has nothing to do with you. You know, it's just time for a new evolution of gaming coverage.
Kick is the opposite. Go now. Oh, Testicle Tuesday. Got you. Yeah, I remember. Okay, now I remember. Yeah, Kick is the opposite of Twitch. It looks just like Twitch, but kind of better. Like if you go on the internet and look up Kick, you'll see like the similarities. I think they run off of the same servers. They go off of the same host server as Twitch, but they do different things.
I guess I understand that. Also, we just like that Keeley guy better. Bye.
God damn it!
I want to take time to thank today's sponsor.
Alright, what else do we have? What's going on in the world? I feel like in a week of work, I've missed so much. Elon Musk give up Twitch or Twitter? I thought he sold Twitter. I guess there's not really much going on, is there? There really hardly isn't any gaming news going on, is there, guys? That sucks. I totally forgot I followed him. Let's see what RGT85 is talking.
Today's video is brought to you by Guardian Tales. Guardian Tales for the Nintendo Switch is a free-to-start action RPG available on the Switch eShop with...
Wait, that's dope. He gets, he's got the best sponsor I've ever seen. If he's really, if he's representing Nintendo, fucking congrats to this guy. Fucking for real. You know how hard it is to get reps like this anymore? Especially like after people like Clean Prince Gaming.
Beautiful and detailed pixel art style, with a story that's reminiscent of classic RPGs with a sci-fi fantasy theme, and features homages to other games, TV, films, and pop culture in a very enjoyable way. There's a wide variety of support characters and weapons, each with their own skills and abilities to keep things fresh and strategic. And on...
Well, I do enjoy the fact... Do enjoy the fact that he has that as a sponsor. That's not why I clicked on this video.
38 for roughly 1 day now, and I'm already annoyed. I'm already annoyed at all of this new console talk and the leaks and this, that, and the other. This proves this and this proves that. I'm already annoyed with it. Now, first and foremost, thank you to everyone who wished me a happy birthday yesterday. It was an enjoyable day. Spent some time with some family. Got some nice gifts as well. And of course, we did a live stream over on the second channel. Thank you to everyone who came out to that. It was a very good time. Make sure you subscribe to the second channel if you haven't yet. I'm doing retro videos on there now. People seem to really like them, and there's a bunch more coming. But let's get back to reality, the non-fun stuff, talking about these rumors and leaks that, God almighty.
So I don't know if anybody ever remembered me saying this, but I always said that I wanted to see at the... and like the post showcase interviews or little chats that they have where they go over and everybody is like sucking off the show. I would love to see somebody go off and just go unhinged and talk a bunch of negative stuff and or not negative, but actually be real. I think this guy would be perfect for it. I honestly think RGT85 would be fucking perfect for that role.
So first off, we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 Slim, because I want to lead up to the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff, because we're going to be crushing dreams here with that. And with the PlayStation 5 Slim, at least maybe there's some sort of tangible evidence to it. So if you've been following the saga of the FTC Chronicles, where Microsoft is begging on their knees to let the make the FTC approve this transaction because they're in last place and they need a boost. If you read this stuff, it's almost embarrassing. Like, to see what Microsoft is saying, it's like, bro, just make some video games. Like, make some high quality games, and I bet people would buy your hardware. That's kind of how the video game industry has pretty much always worked. But alas, this seems to be the new move. Whatever, no.
That would be too simple. Then Microsoft would have nothing to complain about. Also make games that people stay interested in.
Heat on Microsoft for that. I get it. I get that you're trying to convince people who don't understand anything about video games to let this, transaction go through.
Dude, if anybody has Anybody with a half a nat's brain can understand. They may not understand like all of the technical aspects that go into making a video game, but they can understand what they're interested in. So it's just like, if they're really trying to, who are they really trying to convince by that? To just to be honest. That's like the FTC trying to convince everybody that Sony is the victim in this whole deal. Like, no, they're not. They're fine. They can manage.
But it is embarrassing when you read some of this stuff. But Microsoft put out an interesting statement in the latest FTC briefing situation, basically confirming, at least in their mind, the existence of new PlayStation 5 hardware in the form factor of a PlayStation 5 Slim. Basically, during...
I figured he would talk about this, where they got documentation leaking, or quote unquote leaking, that there was a PlayStation 5 Slim, and then basically having a price point for what the PlayStation 5 Slim is, or how much it's going to cost. And I think it's like $100 more, maybe. I don't know.
Some closing arguments, they said the following. PlayStation likewise sells a less expensive digital edition for $399.99. Of course, talking about the model that doesn't have the disc drive that's on the marketplace right now, and is expected to release a PlayStation 5 Slim later this year at the same reduced price point. So that's very interesting, because that's pretty...
Never mind, I was wrong about that price point thing.
Much saying that PlayStation is going to do the PS5 Slim at $399.99. Obviously, the original PlayStation 5 here is a beefy boy, so I think a lot of people would like a slim model. Now, what's that slim model going to consist of in terms of features? Will it have a disc drive?
But I just got my beefy boy. Why the fuck do I want to go over to a slim?
I have to imagine it would, because why would you do a slim digital thing at the same price point as your digital system that you have on the marketplace? So this could be a very attractive option for would-be purchasers, as it's going to be $100 less. You get a disc drive, and you're getting the same features and same quality as you get across all the PlayStation 5 systems, but you have that additional disc drive. So do I think that there's any merit to this? More so than the Nintendo Switch 2 stuff that we're going to talk about in just a moment, because obviously this is a tradition for Sony at this point in time. They always do slim models of their systems as kind of like a little bit of a refresh since the PlayStation 2 era. I mean, yeah, you could say that the PS1 had the smaller one or whatever, but as far as like actually calling it a slim model, there's a PS2 Slim, a PS3 Slim, a PS4 Slim, and a PS5 Slim. However, I do still think that this is a bit of just sort of speculation. Obviously, there has been lots of rumors about a PlayStation 5 Slim. There's been rumors about the PlayStation 5 Pro as well, which I'm still not completely sold on that. But I think a slim model does make sense, especially if you're driving down costs of something with the disc drive and making it $399.99.
They're lowering the cost of a slim model and then heightening the price for Project Q.
You know, kind of a bit of an FU to the early adopters of the PlayStation 5 at the $500 price point. But I mean, that's how it goes. You know, these systems are supposed to come down in price. They're not supposed to go up in price like we've seen in the post-pandemic era. So I would be fine with this. I wouldn't have a feeling of FOMO or anything, but I would be curious to see.
I think he means pre-pandemic. I don't know. Or mid-pandemic. I don't know. I don't know if that's what he really meant.
How they're shaving off $100 on this system, because obviously components for the PlayStation 5, I don't necessarily feel like they've gotten any cheaper, but I feel like it would be a more ergonomical design, and it could be a very attractive thing. So good job, Microsoft, hyping up the competition's new system. And if this is true, people are going to be looking at this as a great option at $400 to get something with a disc drive and a smaller form factor. Plus, you get the DualSense controller that a lot of people like. So, are you doing more damage than good by saying this sort of stuff? Is the end really justifying the means? I guess we'll have to see how this whole FTC thing pans out. But then, This, buckle up, folks. Buckle up, because these Nintendo people, these Nintendo channels, they're going to be peddling it every day. Nintendo Switch 2
Sorry,
stuff.
you told me to buckle up, so I
Talked about
buckled
it
up.
yesterday with the dev kit situation. Is it real? Is it fake? It's probably fake. And if it's real, it really doesn't mean all that much. But I'm still on the contingent side of it being fake. A very good guesstimation, but a guesstimation to say the least, because there's no way to prove it. You know, there's no way to prove that they do or don't have a dev kit because of NDAs. So you'll never know whether or not they have a dev kit or not. And if they have a dev kit, it's not necessarily contingent that they're doing something right now for a 2023 release. You know, more than likely, this next Nintendo console, which we don't even know if it's a Switch 2. We just say Switch 2 because it gets good in the titles. It could be a brand new concept. You're going to tell me that Nintendo, with a president that's focused on business, is going to look at the next system and be like, hey, we need to have full backwards compatibility of this, knowing damn well the best-selling game on the Nintendo Switch is a Wii U game. They're not thinking we can make all these, you know, remastered editions or, you know, deluxe editions of games on the Nintendo Switch 2 that are only applicable to this system, that feature better frame rates and feature better resolutions and charge full price again and make all of our money back a million times over. All right, that's a story for another day, though. That's something I'm when people say, oh, it's going to have backwards compatibility, you don't know that. But just like this.
No, we do know that. I'll tell you why we know that. If they are putting all of these apps on your Switch right now, there's backwards compatibility of some sort, my friend. Like, what do they have to do? What, and even if there isn't, what do they have to do to bring over one of the best games sold on the Switch right now? Probably up a few things graphically. That's about it. And I'd argue that we might see a better performance on, an even better performance on Tears of the Kingdom with another system. But to say that Nintendo won't have backwards compatibility, I think that I have to heavily disagree with on that one. The next system probably will, and they will find a way to put it there.
The news story is that on the developer backend for the Nintendo platforms, where you can create games and submit them to,
mind you, this jadedness, this jaded talk is huge right now, and I don't blame them for it. Because with the way the gaming industry is going right now, like, it's easy to be very standoffish with certain things. Why am I a smartass? Hold on. Now, why didn't I see that in my chat box? That's weird. Like, I was stupid fucking late on that one. Why am I a smartass? But I think it's very easy to get jaded in this current space of gaming right now. With the FTC stuff, and it just seems like this year is crazy to me how heavily filled with games it is. But that's mostly from like third party developers. It's not from like first party. Well, except for Nintendo. But again, I keep Nintendo out of that conversation. Oh, because of the buckle up thing. Okay, I got you. I don't know why it didn't pop up. It might not have popped up because I don't know if like YouTube is like monitoring my chat. But whatever.
To Nintendo, there is a new listing for it. There's an image of it that's floating around on the internet. And basically, this image shows NX2 has now been added to the developer portal so that you can add games to the Nintendo NX2 even though you don't have a dev kit for it. So I guess the mindset is that there are some people that do have a dev kit for this system and they can access the Nintendo NX2 side of things. So Activision doesn't have one of these, who has been a good partner on the Switch. While it might not be, you know, exclusive titles, they have done a lot of ports like your Tony Hawk's, your Crash Bandicoots and all that stuff. So Activision, because Bobby Kotick said we established this a couple days ago, that Bobby Kotick was just talking out his ass. He's assuming it's going to be a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One level of power based on Nintendo, but he wasn't actually talking about anything rooted in reality. So allegedly, these companies have things out there. And immediately, this should have so many red flags for people. Now, let's sort of backtrack a little bit. So Nintendo NX was, of course, the developer name for the Nintendo Switch, the code name before they called it the Nintendo Switch. Everyone talked about the Nintendo NX, fine and dandy like sour candy. So the mindset is, well, the next system, if it is indeed a Nintendo Switch 2, would be called an NX2 in the development backend. It's that I say hogwash, because every name of a system that we know of is different than the previous name, completely different. Look at something like the Nintendo GameCube, which was the Dolphin, the Wii, which was the Revolution. None of these system names have the same name. The Nintendo NX was the Nintendo Switch, a completely different thing. Why would they name it the same code name and just add a little 2 on there? And as far as the image is concerned, it's the internet. Have you ever been on the internet? You could do some amazing things with Photoshop right now. And the reason why we'll never find out whether or not these dev kits are out in the wild, at least as a concrete, definitive standpoint, is because no developer can say that. There's NDA agreements. There's non-disclosure agreements. So talking about this stuff and saying, oh, this developer has it, this developer has it, it's a very safe thing to say because nobody can really disprove you or prove you right. But if you use logic, you could sort of see through the BS and kind of cut through the murkiness and really see that, you know, I could say that, you know, MVG has an NX2 development kit. And he can't confirm or deny that because he would be under an NDA from Nintendo from previous systems. This whole second half of the Switch stuff, like, I get it. It's a very solid, but a bit soft of a lineup. And more than likely, there's going to be a new system in 2024. But that doesn't mean that there's a bunch of dev kits out there and there's a developer's portal on the back end right now and that the system is going to be announced this month because that's still a thing. It's fun to speculate. I get it. I like to speculate because really this whole video is speculation. But when you're telling people something over and over again and you're sort of driving these points home, you know, you sort of, the onus sort of falls a bit on you. Like with these websites, YouTubers and stuff like that, like you're pretty powerful. You're pretty powerful in distributing news and information out there. And if you're just feeding into the hype more so than feeding into the reality, I feel it's a little disingenuous to some people. And, you know, I used to do it. I get it, but I don't know. It's just annoying at this point in time. Like, the smallest thing, the smallest Reddit post, the smallest tweet, all of a sudden is breaking news. And it's like, we got all these games coming.
Obviously, hold on.
And
because
really
I could easily predict what he's actually talking about here. So, and I do, because I do agree with this. So we all know what the sexy talk, what the sexy version is, right? The sexy version of anything new coming out in gaming is that something has been leaked or something has been. We have this from this and this source on Twitter, and then we take that and then we run with it, and then we have these pointless discussions from people that we don't even know, and the crazy part is from people we don't even know have actually talked to these said sources or whatnot. We just know that they get tweeted about. We see them in the stories. We see them everywhere. One of the issues, and then what ends up happening is that the complete opposite happens. You see this from YouTubers as well. Like, you see people that say, I have a reliable source that has said this, and this about this system and that system. This game is coming out, that game is coming out, and it's completely not true. Then we take those conversations and we run with it. And mind you, some of these publications, some of these major publications, will do the exact same thing. And I am fairly convinced, because I spent years trying to figure out why Jason Schreier is like the Jesus of gaming media, and now I know why he's considered that. It's because of the simple fact that this guy is seriously going behind the scenes, doing the actual digging that it takes to do, that it takes as a journalist, and then he is pushing it out there for you. And then how he markets it is he'll make a tweet about it, just like a very small, he'll make a small, like, summarized version of what he has written in his article to attract you to his article. But other publications do not know how to do this. And so then we have the sexy talks of the speculations of a new consoles, new software, new updates. This goes all around the board. Now, the logical perspective, using a logical brain, using the brain power and thinking skills, one would say if they heard this, they would be skeptical on it first. Like, to what evidence do we actually have that this and this is actually going to happen? The next logical step would be to sit back and wait to see what happens. You wait for articles like from the interviews done with people that are actually behind the scenes. Maybe more than likely somebody that has the authorization to talk about stuff like this. Like, that's where I would be digging at and waiting for right there, rather than just waiting for just random people sitting on their couch to get sources that you don't know is reliable to give you the information. Which is why I don't hang out a lot on Twitter, because like Twitter is just as Twitter does. Like, you go on Twitter, you spout like crazy opinions, and then you get other people with crazy opinions, and then they match, they go up against each other in the comments, and it's becoming less and less entertaining to me as time goes on, because it's always the same cycle. So when he's talking about like people are going to Twitter to get this information, is like that you don't know how reliable most of these people that are posting these things actually are on Twitter. And basically what he's saying is use critical thinking to actually figure out whether or not you're actually whether these rumors are true or not. Like, sit back, wait to see what happens.
You know, I could say that, you know, MVG has an NX2 developed.
Also, these things with the these same topics, they get used as perfect clickbait. It's perfect clickbait. So like anybody, they're attention grabbers.
Development kit, and he can't confirm or deny that because he would be under an NDA from Nintendo from previous systems. This whole second half of the Switch stuff, like, I get it, it's a very solid but a bit soft of a lineup, and more than likely there's going to be a new system in 2024, but that doesn't mean that there's a bunch of dev kits out there and there's a developers portal on the back end right now, and that the system is going to be announced this month, because that's still a thing. It's fun to speculate. I get it. I like to speculate, because really this whole video is speculation.
It's really not fun to speculate anymore, because once so many people do it, it just takes the fun out of it after a while. Like, and it's always the same thing. Like, it's never anything different. Like, what's the most people speculate about when it comes to Nintendo? Like, when the next Direct was. Like and it's never actually speculation. It's just really what they're hoping for. It's really what they want, which is not the definition of speculating. If I were to speculate something, I'm taking a guess at what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. No, speculation, the stuff that people are talking about when it comes to like speculation here, it's not actually speculating. It's not actually speculating. It's actually people saying what they want to see. They want another Nintendo Nintendo console to come out. That's what they want. That's basically what it is. That has nothing to do with speculation. Hey, we haven't seen a direct in a while. We want a direct. Hey, what was it? Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. How many times did people speculate about Dante being in there? Let Dante get in there. Let Dante get in there. That's not speculation. They wanted to see Dante get in on the Smash Bros. Action. And every time it didn't happen, what happened? They got mad about it. So this isn't speculating. That's why it's not fun, because people aren't actually speculating. They're just telling them what they want to see. They're telling everybody what they want to see.
But when you're telling people something over and over again and you're sort of driving these points home, you know, you sort of, the onus sort of falls a bit on you. Like with these websites, YouTubers and stuff like that, like you're pretty powerful. You're pretty powerful in distributing news and information out there. And if you're just feeding into the hype more so than feeding into the reality, I feel it's a little disingenuous to some people. And, you know, I used to do it. I get it, but I don't know. It's just annoying at this point in time. Like, the smallest thing, the smallest Reddit.
You hear that? He did the hokey pokey and he turned his life around.
Post, the smallest tweet, all of a sudden is breaking news. And it's like, we got all these games coming out, man. Let's talk about the games. Let's talk about this, that, and the other. And it's like, RGT, why aren't you talking about the games? Because I have to counteract all the nonsense and the bullshit. Somebody's got to do it, right? Let me know what you think of all this in the comment section down below. PlayStation 5 Slim, is it coming this year? Maybe. Nintendo Switch 2, are people developing?
I don't really give a fuck either way. Like I said, I just got my big bulky boy. I am not trying to see another PlayStation come out for a little bit. Like, as much as this shit costs, like, nah, man. Like, let me enjoy my PlayStation 5 while I have it. I've had more than enough time with my Switch. I'm not even gonna bother speculating. You know what? I'll make a speculation. I say we might find out something about it by the end of the year. Maybe. That is a heavy maybe. But with the recent success of Tears of the Kingdom, I am very positive they are eating that up right now. The one thing I will say that RGT85 was really wrong about in this whole thing was the repeat of history when it came to how the Wii went out. So of course we got the Twilight Princess, and then at the end we got that garbage fire called Skyward Sword, and then the Wii U came out and it got dunked on heavy. I don't think this is I think they did it right this time. I think that if this is the end of the Switch, if this truly is the end of the Switch right here, then they started off with the makings of a perfect sandwich. You have the launch with Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild. I do not remember what else was launched when the Switch came out. But then you have Tears of the Kingdom to seal the deal. And then you have Pikmin 4. I don't know how many people are actually fans of Pikmin, but you have Pikmin 4. I think that would be a good way to close it out if I was doing it. But this is Nintendo we're talking about. They know what they're doing. They don't need us to tell them what to do. They can easily they can easily make things happen. And they have shown that to us countless times. And somehow, I'm still awake. I don't know how. But I'm going to get off of here because I've been on here for almost 4 hours. I've been up since 4:15. I got some business to take care of. Actual adulting to do this today, so I gotta head out. Thank you all for joining me. I am getting ready. I'm going to get ready for Souls, so some more streaming with Souls. I got to get that ready later. I'm not doing it tonight. But I will be getting it ready for tomorrow, so but I got to go adult. You all, thank you all again for joining me. I appreciate you. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for keeping me. You are probably the ones keeping me up the whole time. So thank y'all. Thank y'all for that. And I will see you all tomorrow.